Yes, sir. 15 in, and here we are. Welcome in, everybody, to episode 15 of Catching Connor. Now, we're getting to y'all a little bit late today. You know, we're big football guys, too. So, Oregon and Washington just played a classic game. So, we thought that we'd delay it a little bit, but don't get us wrong. We're still going to get you guys all the info, all the things that you guys have been waiting for us to hear. So, Nibs, what's going on, man? It was a hell of a game that we just saw. Hell of a boxing week last week. Got some big fights coming up. So, how we doing right now? Seems like a pretty good time to be alive.
Bro, I mean, catch and counter, 15, the authority in all things boxing, fuck with us or fuck off. It was an amazing boxing week, first off. But I tell you what, bro, as a fan of football, Pac-12 championship, Pac-12 closed out their conference correctly, bro. They sent off with Washington and Oregon. If you haven't seen the game and you're trying to catch up on it, trust me, it's man, instant classic. Michael Penix should get the Heisman. That's
Yeah.
my that's my humble opinion.
You know, I'm cool with
I
that.
know
I've been.
Jack got something to say about it
Yeah. Well, no, I'm with you on that. I said Jaden Daniels got an argument, but you know me, I'm an East Coast guy, but I've been riding with Washington the whole year. So they were slept on a lot. They were disrespected. They were huge underdogs against a team they already beat, but they got it done. So it was great to watch that. Unfortunately for me, as an East Coast guy, it was not great to watch the main event on Showtime that we had last weekend. We had Demetrius Andrade, my guy Boo Boo, against David Benavidez. He's been waiting 15 years for a big fight. He finally got it, and unfortunately, it did not go his way. But David Benavidez, I mean, I got to keep it real. I wanted Boo Boo to win. I was pulling for him, but I did pick Benavidez, and he even impressed me. He did better than I thought he would do, and I think he's fully lived up to his name, the Mexican Monster. I really hope that we do get him and Canelo next year. I'm under the belief that we do get it. We got to see, though, obviously, nothing in boxing is sure until it actually happens. But what do you think about David Benavidez's performance against Boo Boo? It was a fight that a lot of people thought Boo Boo was at least a live dog in. I know we both thought he had a good chance, but man, David, especially once from that fourth round on, he made it all his fight.
First off, I want to take my hats off to Boo Boo, man. He ran into to the Mexican Monster, bro. But the fact that this dude, I mean, let's face it, Boo Boo's a 154 guy. He and probably 160 at best, but 168 is too big for him. His first fight at 168, I was like, okay, you're going off of that and you're fighting David Benavidez. It might have been a little bit too much too fast, right? But I give him this. Nobody wanted to fight David Benavidez. He said it in his post fight. Nobody wanted to fight this dude. Nobody wanted to fight me his whole fucking career, right? Nobody wanted to fight Boo Boo his whole career. They fought each other. Best man won. I like the fact that he didn't make any excuses. He said, "Look, it is what it is. I'll come back and I'll get back on my horse." So hats off to him. But I'm gonna tell you what, man. David Benavidez put everybody on notice, bro. You know what I'm saying? He's not just a one-trick pony. He's not just power. He's not just a right hand. He's not just a guy who can knock people out. He's got defense. He's slick with it. He's got timing. Everything you want from a big, strong guy, right? He put in there, and he took some shots. Like it wasn't like Boo Boo didn't land some hard shit. Boo Boo was in there slinging that leather, and he walked right through that shit and did what he was supposed to do. So, when you take one of the best defensive guys at that weight, and once you start getting 154, 160, all that, Boo Boo is one of the best defensive fighters in the world, and he couldn't get out the way. You know what I'm saying? Benavidez is a sharpshooter. The fight we all want next is Canelo, right? Him and Canelo. It makes sense. Who knows if it'll get made, but I think David Benavidez put himself in a position where all he can do is say, "Come get some."
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this: I did put $50 on Boo Boo strictly because the odds were what they were. I had to put some money on him. It was like, if he won, I'd be going Christmas shopping for 2 years. But he lost. I'm out of my money, out of my $50. I'm sending him receipts. But you know what? I did pick Benavidez to actually win the fight as a actual analyst of the sport, and he didn't disappoint. Man, he did everything you expected Boo Boo. Boo Boo did everything you expected him to do, but David Benavidez did exactly. He actually exceeded expectations.
Mm-hmm.
He made it look easy against a guy that isn't easy to beat, right? Boo Boo could probably come back and give most everybody else at 168, not named Canelo or Benavidez, some issues or morale. You know, that guy's special. So, man, if even if you're not a fan of David Benavidez, you have to appreciate what he did in the ring, and not just him, but that whole fucking card, top to bottom, was full of entertainment. But hats off to David Benavidez, bro. I think he should get Canelo next. And at this point in his career, a lot of people are going to be putting heavy money on it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm not counting Canelo up, but I know just style-wise, I'd be picking Benavidez. I think the younger, stronger, naturally bigger guy, just the volume and the activity he has. I think Canelo's always been good, but he's always been good he wants to fight his pace, and he gets guys to fight his pace. I think it's a lot harder to do that against a guy like Benavidez, but I want to give my guy Boo Boo props too, and shout out to Hybrid. We got him in the chat saying Benavidez getting better with each and every fight. I think you saw that with the Plant fight. It took him a few rounds. I think for Boo Boo, it took him a few rounds, but I think he started to kind of really, really get going. And look who we have here. We got, oh man, we're getting jumped here. I don't know what's going on, Divs, but here we go. We're getting jumped here.
What's going on? What's going on? We're here to take over the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, the number two guys always want to hang out with the
we heard there was a pod in need of views. So
yeah, funny.
I mean, these are late night hours. You guys, aren't you guys in bed by this time? These are our hours, bro.
Yeah. No, I understand you guys want to come in. You guys want to know what it's like to have, the chat bumping and all those things. I understand. Hey, we ain't blaming you guys. We ain't blaming it. I appreciate it. But as I was saying, I do want to give my guy Boo Boo some credit. I said it when we were on Wednesday too, but this isn't me even making excuses because Benavidez was the better man. Ain't no ands, ifs, or buts about it. But it does. I mean, Andrade, just a guy who it took him this long to get a fight. Not even saying that all of it is other people's fault. Some of it was his own fault due to business decisions or other things that I think he would have went the other way. He didn't know some of the Rock Nation things or some of the things would go the way they did or the Eddie Hearn things, but neither here nor there at this point. But it's just a tough ask for him, I think, at this point to fight a guy like David. And a lot of guys, I think, once they got hit in the fourth round, because he was doing really good in those first few rounds. I think David started to kind of get closer and closer each round, but once he got hit in the fourth round with that club and shot and he went down, clearly the was the beginning of the end for him. But I think a lot of guys would have folded in that moment. They would have kind of just looked to survive and move around. And I think he realized what we all realized, that it was kind of the beginning of the end. And he said, instead of, just kind of trying to circle around, kind of survive a bit longer, he said, F that, I'm going to go in there and I'm probably going to get knocked out in the process, but I'm going to try to take his head off. So I think I want to give him all the respect in the world for that. Some people will say he technically didn't go out on his shield, because it was stopped in the corner. But to me, I like to use that term a bit more loosely and give these fighters a benefit of the doubt. I just think in his actions up to that point made it to the point that they had to stop the fight. But I mean, he was in there just swinging, trying to do everything he could, but David was just too much. And you see just the pressure that David puts on these guys. I mean, Boo Boo fought like a 12-round fight in those first 4 or 5 rounds. And you saw that he rehydrated up to 190, which to me, I didn't think was the best idea because I think you saw his legs start to kind of give out a bit. And clearly after he was knocked down too, but I don't care what weight he rehydrated to. If he had been a little leaner in there, I think no matter what, David was the better man. And just that, I really do hope we get that Canelo fight next year because it's a hell of a fight.
Yeah, and then hats off to his corner for actually stopping it, right? Because if they'd have sent him out there, he'd have gone out there for another round. Let's be real clear. He'd have gone out there and probably would have, got himself badly hurt. So hats off to his corner for doing their job and protecting their guy and keeping him from technically really going out on his shield. But again, hats off to Google. But man, David Benavidez is a bad motherfucker. You muted, baby.
Yeah, muted.
Your boy was muted. He fixed that real quick, but saludos to Jesus. We got Hybrid in here asking what Benavidez rehydrates to. I'm not sure. If I had to guess, it'd be somewhere in the 190s. I mean, obviously, I don't have the exact answer to that, but from 168, probably somewhere. If Boo Boo got up to 190, which is probably the max you could get to, I'm guessing David is probably a bit heavier than that. Maybe not 200 pounds, but probably somewhere in that ballpark right there.
Yeah, he was definitely a cruiserweight in the ring.
Yeah, man, Benavidez is tough. I until like that pressure, bro, hard to beat. It's pretty much the only question is he going to be able to continue to apply that pressure when he gets hit with something real on the way back? You know, and I don't think too many people are going to provide that except a Canelo or a Bitter Beef, you know. So yeah, I thought Boo Boo would be, you know, competitive because of his athleticism, and I thought he'd be able to move around. But you know, once he started exchanging punches, the fight was over, man. Like it was only a matter of time. And I guess I kind of was surprised how quick it happened. But you know, kind of looking back, you being a boxing fan, you know, Boo Boo was a much smaller guy, right? He had been down to at 54, at 60, where Plant was able to last, but Plant's also a bigger guy. So yeah, props to Andre. But yeah, Benavidez did what Benavidez had to do for us to be talking about him and Canelo.
I would, excuse me. I would just love to see if his power has any effect on Canelo if that fight happens. Yeah, it seems like to me sometimes it seemed like Benavidez's power is cumulative, but that shot in the 4th round was not accumulative, and that was thunderous, man. And yeah, if that fight happens, I'm curious to see if he can get into Canelo and actually do some damage.
Hey, yo, pause. But yeah, like Canelo, you know, everybody's on Benavidez's power, but come on, I mean, Andre, let's be real. He had been hurt against who was it? Liam
Williams hurt him late in that fight.
He hurt him, you know, earlier in the career. I think what's the dude's name?
Yeah, Vanez, Mana Rosen had dropped him early on too.
Yeah, and these are, you know, so then you have a 168 pounder. If we want to say that, like obviously he's much bigger and cuts to get there. My concern for kind of David would be, is he gonna be falling in love with his power, right? Like, yeah, you got Andrade out of there, but Canelo has kind of been working the opposite. He's been fighting bigger guys. That's Kovalev, that's Triple G, Bivol. Like, I don't think, you know, one punch is gonna hurt the dude. So yeah, but Benavidez is getting better and better. Canelo has been Canelo. He's looked the best that he has in the past couple years. That's the fight that has to be made, right? No excuses. That we need that fight.
Nibs,
yeah, I mean, real tough. Like you, what Ray just said, right? Like, you know, I said earlier, people based on, you know, what Benavidez has done his last 2 fights are going to be picking him as a favorite or think he should be able to beat Canelo. But, you know, to touch on what Ray said, bro, you look at what Canelo's been doing. He's got an iron chin, bro. He's been fighting the bigger dudes, like you said. He hasn't been stopped yet. And I'm sorry, but if Caleb Plant can make it, I'm pretty sure Canelo can make it. You know what I mean? Whether he wins or loses the fight is irrelevant to me. He's not David Benavidez is not putting, you know, Canelo on his ass, bro. But before we go any further, I want to say that we're giving props to everybody. I want to give big props, and I rarely do this to the other guys, but Ray is really the real champ of the night. You know why? Because he took one for the shop, went ahead and smoked off, you know, Felix's debt, you know, to catch and counter. I mean, and he took him like a champ too, bro. I just
Hey, yeah, man, I got him. He'll get me. I got him.
Yeah,
whatever you drink, I drink, champ.
And he made a bet with me. He not only smoked off, you know, his shot with me, but then went ahead right after that and smoked off Felix's four. Hey, man, that's Ray. You invited to the cookout anytime, bro.
I'm banned.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no, I can go. I'm just not allowed to drink when I go there now.
Felix has to sit at the kiddie table.
I still got you, Nibs. Don't worry. I still got you on them shots.
Yeah. He'll got you by Canelo Benavidez next year. He should be able to have him by then, hopefully.
Right.
Yeah, but Cinco de Mayo, man, I hope it happens. Like that's the most interesting fight out there for me. You know, I don't know. I saw a comparison, you know, just scrolling. They said, which is the bigger fight? Benavidez Canelo or Wilder Joshua or Joshua Fury? I think it's Canelo Benavidez, right? Because I don't know how that plays out. And I think it just means the most, right? I mean, obviously, that's hard to say because that's the heavyweight championship, but it just like Canelo has earned his legacy. He retires. If he retired a few fights ago, he's a Hall of Famer. But he still has that hunger, right, to be the best, to be looked at as, historically all-time great. And Benavidez is just on a run, man. He's on a run right now. And he did it the right way, right? Because I guess I criticized him before when he was fighting guys like David Lemieux, right? I'm like, what is that about? But since then, he kind of looked at the only way I'm going to get this Canelo fight is to start making things happen. And that's an impressive run, right? Caleb Plant, Demetrius Andrade, it definitely puts him up there for fighter of the year. But I think he changed things and kind of, made those fights happen, whatever, right? And he's gunning for Canelo. And, I don't think Canelo's ego lets him ignore David Benavidez.
Yeah, because that's exactly what we were saying before. We got Hybrid asking, do you guys still think Morrell has a chance at beating Benavidez? I mean, I still think he's got a chance. He's got all the talent in the world. But as we spoke on, and as you guys said in the chat earlier, just David gets better and better each fight. We saw him from the play-in fight to this fight. It seemed like a whole different guy. He was able to adjust that much quicker. And I do think that Morrell offers a different stylistic fight than Andrew, just because he's a natural 168. He's got more pop on his punches, younger, fresher, all those things. But I do think that I might probably have to. I've always been favoring Morrell, but I think logic would say you might have to favor Benavidez at this point because he's been in there and done that against the higher level of opposition. I'd still give Morrell a hell of a shot, and I'd probably bet on him because I'm sure he'd be the underdog, but I think he'd have a good shot in that one. But even going back to the Canelo fight, I think that is a fight that we need for next year. To me, I said it. It's kind of seems that it has vibes of being like this generation's Chavez versus Oscar De La Hoya. When you have Canelo as Chavez being the older Mexican champion who's been there, done that. Then you have the younger guy, Oscar, and David Benavidez. David isn't quite what Oscar was, but I think it's the same kind of feeling of the passing of the torch potential moment there. I think between the Mexican versus the Mexican-American, who's the real Mexican, all those kind of back and forths that we had for that. But I just think for David, as you guys said, I don't think he's going to hurt Canelo and stop him. But I do think just that the activity of David would be able to overwhelm Canelo, I think. And unless Canelo is able to slip under a shot and hurt David, if he's not able to hurt David, and even if he is able to hurt David, if David's able to recover, I just think that output and just the size and just if he's able to stick that jab out there, I think that would end up being the difference. For David, he's just got, as Nibs, you said earlier, David's got really underrated defense. I used to think he had leaky defense, and he still gets touched. Everybody gets touched up. You even saw against Boo Boo, even against Plant 2. He sits on that high guard really well. He blocks more shots than you think he does. When you go back and watch his fights after you see, okay, those guys let off 6-7 punch combinations, but only about 2 or 3 of them landed. And also just his punch placement, too. I don't think he gets enough credit for his IQ in there. Even that overhand shot that he landed on Andrade, he had to kind of time that up and think about that, land the perfect shot. So even if he doesn't have that one-punch eraser power and it is more accumulative, I think the way he's able to place those shots like that, he still can. I mean, he changed the course of that fight with one shot. So I think not that he's going to be able to do that against Canelo, but I think when you add in the size, the youth, just the punch volume, the activity, when Canelo is really good, but he likes to fight at his certain pace, and he's able to draw guys to that pace. I don't think David's going to let him do that. I think David's going to be able to land enough shots to kind of make it tough on him.
I think that's kind of the Chavez De La Hoya, right? The passing of the torch. Mm-hmm. I just don't. I remember when that fight happened, right? Like, I think the writing was on the wall. Chavez is going to pass that torch. Mm-hmm. I don't think that writing is filled out yet, right?
That's true.
Canelo's still at the top, and Canelo still thinks he's at the top, right? Like, people with that fight, and we talk back about now, you say, oh, Chavez was old. Looking back now, I don't know. He was probably 35 or so, right? Which today doesn't seem old. No. But, even Canelo right now is, what is he, like 33?
33. I think Chavez, the first fight, was actually about this 33 years old, too. But he had a lot of fights and mileage on him, so you thought he was older. But I think it was that same old school. They fought
20 years ago. 20 years ago, you think, oh, once they hit 30, the fighter's on the other side. Mm-hmm. Now we're looking at probably 37. I mean, I'm just making this up. I'd say, like, when a guy gets 37, like, okay, maybe he's older now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like, Canelo is still Canelo, right? Like, I don't think Canelo's in any rush to pass the torch. He still walks around, still talks like he's the man. and it just makes the fight all the better, right? You know, Benavidez isn't young enough where we're gonna say, oh, he wasn't ready. Like this is, let's put it up there. Let's make it happen. But we started this little conversation with Morrell, bro. To me, that's the true boogeyman, right? Like, I'm a Canelo.
Yeah, there's a lot of fake boogeymen in this boxing game, but that's a real boogeyman right there. I think that label gets thrown around a bit too much sometimes, but nah, he's earned that label for sure.
Well, because I'll say this, right? Like, I'm a Canelo fan, bro. I don't. Hey, Canelo, I don't need to see you fight Morrell right now, bro. Like, let's let that one build up, right? And that's me as a Canelo fan. Even as a Canelo fan, I'm thinking David Benavidez, like, bro, you don't need to take him out, right? Like, let's make this fight happen, and you know, David Morrell will figure out his career. But really, that's props to David Morrell, because I think he's that good, and I think he could definitely easily ruin this fight if he fights either of these guys.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And I think the problem with Morrell is he's just you fight him and it's a lose-lose situation, damn near. And there's like, it's very, very high risk, and the reward also is kind of high too for boxing purists. But for, I mean, majority of the people, if David Benavidez fought David Morrell, we would love it. But the casuals would also say, why is he ducking Canelo? He's fighting this guy who doesn't even have 20 fights. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's not going to be a good look for Big David.
And let's not forget, before Andrade Benavidez was announced, I remember them saying that David Benavidez was fighting David Morrell. Like, y'all remember that came out, and I was like, what? Like, wow. It turned out he fought Andrade. Probably a smart choice. As we're into this week, you know, Benavidez is saying, oh, if Canelo fights Munguia, which I want to talk about. I don't think that's happening. I don't even know where that came about. But David Benavidez says, if Canelo fights Munguia, I'm gonna fight Charlo to take out another opponent. Like, Morrell doesn't get mentioned for a reason, right? Like, I think he's, you know, and he is early in his career, only a few fights, but you talk about the eye test. Yeah, let's leave it at that. He's passing.
I think honestly, it would kind of be good for David, because it would be a fight that would age well too. It'd be much like the Mayweather Canelo. Like, that was a very early Canelo, and Mayweather, you know, he got that dub, and you know, that's aging amazing still to this day. You know what I mean? So if Big David got that over Morrell early in his career, you know, Morrell's still going to do great things. I'm sure of it. You know what I mean?
I think Morrell's big fight, maybe Pacheco, right? I think Canelo and Benavidez, you know, eventually move on, find their ways to 75, or at least Benavidez finds his way to 75. You know, and Morrell's early in his career, and Pacheco obviously Conlan next in the 168-pound division.
So Nibs, what do you think? Do you think we get Canelo Benavidez next year? Is it a Cinco de Mayo? Is it September? Do you care when it is, or do you just want to see it in 2024? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't give a fuck when it is. It should be next. Like, period. Like, do I think it's the biggest fight? No, I do think that Wilder and Joshua is going to be the bigger fight financially, right? Because they're heavyweights, and because Joshua can sell 1 million tickets in the UK fighting on the street corner. So it'll be the bigger fight, you know, financially. But the bigger fight in boxing, in the sport of boxing, and domestically for us, it's Canelo and Benavidez, hands down. There's no other fight really I give a shit about until that gets made. Maybe, you know, maybe if, you know, Tank or Shakur get into some kind of unification thing, which I don't think is going to happen. So, you know, we'll see. You know, Haney's talking about moving up to 147 if he beats Prograis. We'll see how that goes. But at the end of the day, let's be real. It's Canelo Benavidez. Ray's right. It should happen on Cinco de Mayo. That's really the only fight anybody gives a shit about. Now, if both of them say they want to take a in-between fight before it happens, okay, then it should be happening on Mexican Independence Day in September. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Let's cut all the bullshit and make it happen as soon as possible. But if, let's say, this Munguia thing happens, which I hope it doesn't, but if it does and he ends up having to fight a guy like Morrell, right? You know what? I think you're right. I don't think anybody wants that smoke with Morrell right now. Like, period. Whether it's Canelo, Benavidez, or anybody else, really, that's even got a chance of getting a fight with either one of those two guys, right? Because you fight him, you're gonna lose. Like that. You know, we can talk all the shit we want to about him being young in his career, this, that, and the third. You look at the way that dude's fight. He's smoking off just about everybody not named Benavidez or Canelo. I think Canelo and Benavidez are really competitive fights for him, and I can't. Yeah, it's a coin toss on who wins, but everybody else, he's whooping their ass, and I think that you want to avoid him at all costs. But give me Canelo Benavidez, and I take Canelo, because I think he's taking Benavidez's shots a lot easier than a lot of people think. And Canelo's defense is underrated. People don't understand. Dude's boxing IQ changed exponentially after the Floyd Mayweather fight. Like, he used to just be the "I'll walk through your punches" guy, right? Now he's a little bit slicker than that. You know what I mean? But his power is still there. He, as we saw in the Charlo fight, Charlo, once you saw, was the second or third round, I think it was. You guys give me right if I'm wrong. I think it was like the second or third round. Charlo felt that power and was like, I really don't want that shit. And then he was in survival mode from there on, right? And we're talking about a guy who's a dog. Charlo's not a bitch. He's a dog. And he was like, "Oh, fuck it. I just got to make it through this." So I think that for the first time, I think Benavidez will be hit by somebody who hits as hard, if not harder than him, but can take his punches a lot better than he can take theirs. And I just don't think he's ready for that. But either way, give it to me. I want to watch it.
Yeah, and that's what I like about that fight. Yeah, and anytime we get these fights, the fights that intrigue me the most are fights when both guys have stylistic advantages over the other guy. So I think when you could say, if you're on Canelo's side, you think he's going to win, you could say, well, Benavidez, he's a big, tall frame. Canelo can kind of whack those arms. David's going to let his hands go, but that's going to give Canelo the opportunities for the counters. He's going to be able to rip into that body. He's going to be able to rip those hooks in there. And Benavidez is maybe a bigger guy too, so he's going to have a tougher time making 168. You got to wonder how many more times he could do that. All those things kind of favor Canelo, and just the overall experience too, being in the championship fights, and like I said, being able to slip inside and maybe cut that distance off and rip David to the body. David looks at it. He says, I'm the younger guy, the bigger, stronger guy. If I'm able to still make 168 cleanly, I can use that to my advantage. I have the gas tank. I can go all 12 rounds, and that I can overwhelm Canelo. Maybe not hurt him and knock him out, but use my volume and my activity and my underrated defense to catch the counters, and then be able to make him pay with that jab, the hand speed, all those kind of things. So anytime you get a fight where you can look and give both guys a path to victory, those are the kind of fights that I want to see. I mean, Canelo Munguia is a cool fight, but we don't even need to break down that fight. I think we all know how that fight would go. I know Ray was saying earlier too, that's a fight you wouldn't see, I don't think, too, still just because Oscar's got his own problems going on, which we'll get to that in a bit too. But I don't see Canelo and Oscar working together. I don't see PBC making a Munguia fight in this 3-fight deal. So I know it's been a rumor going around. Hey, if it happens, I'll be wrong. And it would be a fun fight, I guess. But it's not a fight up here we're going to sit right now and break down and say, oh, Munguia can do this, and that to win, because I just don't see it.
The same, man. There's no way that PBC makes a 3-fight deal with Canelo and then says, hey, okay, go fight their guy, the Golden Boy guy, which you, Canelo, don't want to do any business with. And that's the zone. It's like, why would that fight happen? I don't know where that rumor came from, man. Like, I'm sure it came out of Mexico somewhere, probably one of Munguia's homeboys. Like, bro, because I mean, anybody could throw anything out there, right? It's just business-wise, which I'm kind of looking at. I mean, even, competition-wise, it doesn't make sense. But business-wise, it makes zero sense for me. And I haven't heard anyone like reliable talk about it. Like, I haven't heard Canelo say like, oh yeah, Munguia might be an option. If that fight happens, I'm really surprised. But I'm just saying, there's no way he's in a 3-fight deal and you're gonna rent him out for one of those fights. Like, you're gonna keep that in-house. Like that's just, why would you not? It's not like that fight's so big that, okay, yeah, let's make that happen because that's the biggest fight. No one cares about that fight. He's with another promoter. He's with another promoter that your fighter hates. It's like, I can't see that happening. But, I mean, it keeps getting thrown out there. But, yeah, I'm saying no way it happens.
Munguia's play cousins is out there, putting that out there on the internet. That's what it is. And let's face it, bro. Like you just said, financially, which is what usually it comes down to, nobody gives a shit. Nobody's really clamoring to watch that fight in the first place. So if it does happen, it'll happen down the road sometime when maybe Canelo doesn't have shit else to do. But let's face it, he's on that tour of let me get my money. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it makes sense for it being.
I would say, the Cinco de Mayo date, right? I would feel Canelo has very few options. And that's only because of his greatness. He's already cleaned everything out. It's like, yeah, maybe he fights a Bivol, but that's again promoter. Does he do that? But that would be an option. Charlo, I would say, would be an option, but with how bad his brother performed, and that I think that's kind of a hard sell. I think we talked about it on Monday, like maybe for the casuals, Terrence Crawford might be the only option that would be okay. Like, okay, we'll give you that one on May 5th. But besides that, I don't think boxing fans are going to give Canelo, too much rope with who he fights on May 5th, right? And that's why I think hopefully the Benavidez happens sooner than later. If it's a 3-fight deal, rematch that in September. But he doesn't have that many options, right? To me.
Yeah,
I ran a poll on Instagram the other day, and I named 4 fighters. Which one of you guys want to see Canelo fight next? And I left it to you guys, the fans, to vote. And 92% of the votes went to David Benavidez, 5% went to Jermall Charlo, 0 to David Morale, and 3% to Jaime Munguia. Jack, you're responsible for that one, but there you go. Those are the results. So it doesn't seem like anybody wants Morale, Charlo, Munguia, whatever. But Benavidez is clearly the fight.
Yeah. And no, everyone, just so y'all know, I did not vote Munguia. It's a joke. We're not going to put anyone on blast, but we know what he's talking about. But no, guys, I did not vote for Munguia, so settle down a little bit.
Well,
I should have voted because I would have voted Morale. But
yeah, it's just a hard sell, I think, for anybody besides Benavidez, right? Because going back to when, Pacquiao Mayweather, right? We always thought there's no one left. But there continued to be guys that the other could fight because they fought someone that they beat, right? Like Marquez beat Pacquiao. Okay, Floyd fights him, right? Or, Floyd wouldn't fight Margarito. So, hey, Pacquiao, let's fight Margarito. And we could say we fought. Bro, there's not really too much of that going on because Canelo has cleaned out everything, right? So, David Benavidez, yeah, he could fight Andrade. That's one fight. Now he could fight Morel. But we just spoke about, like, bro, that's probably not going to happen. So, it's like there's not too much that either guy could do. I think David Benavidez has more options, maybe. But for Canelo, it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to fight Andrade? Right? Like, we just seen him beat him. Like, you can't even really beat him worse because Benavidez stopped him in 4. So, I mean, maybe this is my fandom just making things happen why this fight's going to take place. But I really don't think there's many options, man.
No, I mean, it has to be Canelo Benavidez next. I mean, we say that all the time. These are the fights that have to be made, and some fuckery happens, and some other fight gets made. But, I'm knocking on wood, bro. I'm crossing fingers and toes. Canelo Benavidez next. It makes sense. Like you said, it makes sense. Like, really, who else can you put out there that makes sense? Like, even contender-wise, right? Like, even if one of these belts along and says, hey, you got to fight this guy next, I'm pretty sure anybody would say, I'll take step-aside money for you to fight Benavidez. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a true fan of the sport and they say they want to fight each other, fuck it, let's go.
I think y'all's hybrid right there says Charlo in May. I think that's probably possibility, but he didn't look great this last fight. He didn't. I felt like maybe if he came out and knocked Jose Benavidez out early, yeah, that'd be an easier sell. But selling him against Canelo, in May. I think that is a possibility. It kind of fits all the aspects that we said, PBC, keep it in-house. But, man, I think that would be a hard sell. Maybe if Benavidez is maybe if Benavidez is on that same card, right? Like if they do a double card and you get Canelo, Charlo, and you get Benavidez, at that point, it doesn't matter who Benavidez fights. But maybe. But if it's just Canelo, Charlo, that pay-per-view's losing money.
Yeah, I think Benavidez is a welterweight, bro, and he gave Charlo some problems. Yeah, nah, I'm not down with that. I mean, name-wise, okay, whatever, but nah, man. Like you said, unless we're getting guaranteed we're doing this fight and then Benavidez is next, it's the only way I'm cool with that.
Yeah, and I do think we get it at some point. I think that David is hungry enough that I think he would take almost any offer they gave him for that fight. And I think me and Ray spoke on this and Felix did on Wednesday too. I think that Canelo is stubborn. And I mean that in a good way. I don't mean that in a bad way, but he hears what everybody's saying. He's hearing people saying you're ducking this guy, this and that. And I think that he knows that he has to deliver that fight next year. And I do think that he will deliver that fight for us. It might not be in May. It might be in September, but I would be shocked. I mean, bro, we've been shocked before, so I'm not even going to act like it's not a possibility. But I really do believe that we do get that fight next year at some point in 2024. I just think that it's a big money fight for Canelo out there at this point. It's a big money fight for Benavidez. And it's still a fight that, with the way Canelo looked against Charlo, he's not sitting there thinking, oh, my God, what am I going to do with Benavidez? He's thinking, bring him on. Like, I can take that guy. And I'm sure Benavidez is thinking the same thing. It's the perfect time for him. I think it's even a better fight now just because Benavidez was unproven a bit before when he had the Lemieux performance and Tyrone Davis, Ronald Ellis, guys like Darrell, guys like that before. But after beating Plant and beating Andrade, even though they're not the same stylistic matchup as Canelo, he's got the championship experience against championship fighters. And I think that makes the fight even bigger now. And I think it's perfect time to make it. I think you want to make it now, too. You don't want to wait another year or two. You got to do this thing next year. And I think they will.
Yeah, man. Benavidez definitely has a battery in his back, right? And well-deserved, right? He's on a roll. And Canelo, we know Canelo's ego. Shoot, after that fight, what did he say? This Canelo beats anybody. Like, hey, they both got batteries in their back. Like, let's see it sooner than later. That's my only hope.
Yep. So I guess perfect time now. We'll move on quickly now. We'll just touch on these undercard fights. And we spoke on them a good amount Wednesday. So, Nibs, we'll pass them to you first. And if you had any quick comments, we can kind of touch on them real quick. But Jermall Charlo did fight Jose Benavidez in the co-main event. To me, I will just say real quick that I'm not saying if they make the Canelo fight next, I don't think Jermall's ready for a fight like that for sure. But I do want to not move the goalpost because I was thinking that, okay, Jose could make this fight interesting. Jose could maybe beat him. So Jermall is sticking that jab out there. Considering the circumstances, I think with everything that was going on with him, even the way he spoke in the post-fight press conference seems still not all the way there. I think considering the circumstances, it was an impressive performance. Now, am I sitting here saying he beats the top guys at 168? I'm not here about to say that. I do think he looked better than I thought he would. With all the time off, I thought his timing and the jab looked pretty good. But what were your thoughts just on his performance? First time seeing him back in the ring in 2.5 years.
I mean, if we're being hypercritical, I thought it was trash. But first fight back off after 2 years, you can't really be that, super critical of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think he got his shit off. Like, he got his rust off. He got in some good work. He went rounds with a comparable opponent, somebody who wasn't just going to come in and lay down, didn't technically know the assignment, right? But let's be real clear. Hats off to Benavidez Jr. for taking the fight because he's realistically a welterweight. Maybe 154 is where he should be campaigning at the most. So the fact that he took the fight at the bigger weight and actually went 12 rounds and accounted for himself well, I give kudos to him for that. The Benavidez, the Benavidez brothers, if anything, are tough sons of bitches. I'll give them that. But no, you're right. Charlo, hey, man, congratulations for coming back. But if you fight Canelo next, you might get it worse than your brother did.
Yep. And the fight that I want to see for Charlo, honestly, it's funny because he won his fight, won every round. Boo-Boo, for a lot of people, disappointed, but that's the fight that I want to see, honestly. I'd like the plan fight for Charlo, but I think the Boo-Boo fight for Charlo, he's got history with both those guys, and I still think that as disappointing as Boo Boo's performance might have been, and I think the first 2 rounds he showed he can still, just in those first 2 rounds, that could beat a lot of guys. I think that version of him is still enough to definitely beat Jermall Charlo at this point. I think prime for prime might be a different discussion, but those are the kind of matchups I want to see for both guys, where they might not be fighting the Benavidez and the Canelos, but I think they could match up and still make a great fight for sure.
Hey, just to I raised my hand because I just wanted to speak on Jose Benavidez Jr. Not only did he go up in weight, he fought a guy who didn't make that weight, right? So, complete shout out to him. And he was standing right in front of him, right? Maybe to his dismay, right? The no head movement, boom, you can't hurt me. But yeah, he had a fight in front of him. He could have pulled out of that fight. I don't think anyone would have blamed him. He could have boxed. I mean, not really his style, but he could have moved and nobody blamed him. But he fought a guy who did make the weight, already the bigger guy, didn't make the weight, and Jose Benavidez was still walking him down. So, yeah, he deserves a lot of credit. I'm sure he negotiated on his end to be paid for that, and I hope that he negotiated a fight or 2 in that, at more his weight class, 154 or whatever. Like, PBC, give me him and Thurman at 54. I just think for what he did and making that co-main event still happen, I hope he gets another fight out of it, because that ain't right, bro. You're already that much bigger. You're bringing the guy up, and then you still blow the weight.
And still couldn't put him out. You that much bigger and still couldn't put the dude away. Like, come on, bro. Get out of here with that. You know what I mean? But yeah, like, and this isn't Benavidez Jr.'s first time doing that, right? Like, he's saved a couple of cards before. So, I think, he's another guy, right? He's got a couple losses, but nobody's giving Jose Benavidez Jr. shit for the losses he has. As a matter of fact, if anything, real boxing fans are like, yo, get that dude another big fight. He deserves it.
And that's where I'm at, especially, where 147 is so busy. Give him a Staniosa, all these guys that we talked about, right? Like a Virgil Ortiz, any of these guys. He was just in there with a 160-pounder. We're talking about maybe he gets a fight at Canelo, and Jose Benavidez Jr. just went the distance with him, right? He gave Danny Garcia a good fight. So, yeah, you get him a fight at 54, which I'm sure he can make. I mean, that'd be up to him, or even 60. I do think he's earned another big fight, or at least another big opponent at those weights. And at the same time, hey, Jermall Charlo, I didn't think you were in any position to fight. So he proved me wrong there. He showed he could still jab, and he showed he could still win a fight. So at the end of the day, I got to give him props for winning the fight. But that's just dirty by not making weight, man. It always is.
Yeah, he showed his talent too. He showed the definition when they say guys can just like walk out of bed and do certain things. He showed he can do that. He basically can get out of bed, stick that jab in there for 10 rounds, and be able to win a decision too. But for Jose, I agree with exactly what you guys are saying too. The fight that I had mentioned on Wednesday, if he is staying at let's say a 160, because I know he moved up to 60 before, so I don't know if 54 is hard to make. But I know Adames is most likely going to become the WBC middleweight champion. And middleweights, there's not many big contenders out there. I mean, I'd love to see like an Elijah Garcia obviously get a fight like that. But if they're looking for a name guy in the first fight, I think Jose is earned. I don't think he would beat Adames. But after everything they went through and saving this card, I could see them throwing him a bone and saying, okay, you can get the first shot at the WBC middleweight title afterwards. Even if it's not a fight that I'd be that interested in, I think he's earned the right to be able to get that.
Damn, bro, I didn't think of that. But if they feed Jose Benavidez Jr. to Elijah Garcia, damn. Come on, man. I said he earned a big fight. Let's not do that. I think Elijah
can't have AZ on AZ crime, bro. It's not right.
No, I was saying I wanted Elijah Garcia to get like the Adames fight. But I'm saying I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
In my mind, I'm like, dang, both PBC, they could probably make that fight happen easily. I like both guys. Let's not do that. But if it does happen, Jose Benavidez Jr. earned a big fight, I think, and Elijah Garcia is about to be in nothing but big fights. So hey,
And damn, that wouldn't be throwing Jose a bone. That would be throwing Jose to the wolves too. I mean, that would be a tough one for him. He's like, damn, I did all that for you guys, and you guys give me that fight. But shit, I'd be down for that 100%.
Yeah, he's a dog, and he would take that fight too.
I got no doubt about that. So move on now. So Nibs, we had Subriel Matias, so I'm going to call him now Subriel No Matias. I mean, he had his fifth straight corner stoppage, and I think that sometimes the nicknames are a little too much. But I mean, bro, if anybody has earned something like that, I'd say this dude has. We saw this fight kind of
that nickname, Jack? Did you give that?
Well, I mean, I don't know if anybody else has said it, but I said it before anyone else I saw say it, so I'm gonna own it for now. So
I haven't heard it. So if that gets picked up, that's you. Mark timestamp it, 45 minutes. You know.
Cool. I might have to trademark that for sure. I put it on Twitter right after the fight too, so at least it's out there even going back. So if I can make a little bread off that, I wouldn't be mad. But going back to the fight, it kind of went the same way the main event did, where Ergashev, like Boo Boo, kind of let his hands go a lot early on, was having success, but it seemed like it was just a matter of time. Matias started closing that distance down. And, bro, I mean, he's just somebody who never wavers, just like when Ponce came out throwing a million punches the first round of his last fight. Cool, calm, collected. The stoppages in these fights, the fifth in a row now in the corner, I think they partly come from what has happened because he is breaking these guys down, but I think it partly also comes from the fear of what is also going to happen if they allow their guy to keep going. I think since unfortunately Ergashev passed away a few years ago after fighting Matias in a fight that was also stopped, I think that there's a lot of fear of what could happen. I think once the ball starts going downhill, it just becomes a complete avalanche. So Nibs, what you think about Subriel Matias out there? I think he's a real player at 140 now, and I mean, bro, he's just the definition of, I think, must-see TV at this point also.
I think everybody at 140 pounds should avoid him like the plague if they don't want to get knocked the fuck out.
And they will, don't worry.
And I think in a couple of years he'll be the 147-pound unified champ. That's just the way I look at it. And the formula is the same, bro. Like if you're a boxer going in there against him, you've got to get your shit off in the first 2 to 3 rounds and hope you land something that hurts him, right? Like he did a couple fights ago. He got staggered a couple of times in that first round. But what does he do? First 2 to 3 rounds, he'll let you get your shit off. He'll stand there and take it. And then what does he do? He steps on the gas and he puts in work and makes you quit. And he hits you in places and in ways where you can both land your hardest punch. You could be throwing your Sunday punch. He's going to land his jab, and you're going to go, shit. Mm-hmm. I can't take too many more of those. And then the fight's over. I mean, the guy he's in there with, he's a knockout artist. He's putting people to sleep. He's hurting people, right? He got his shit off 2 rounds in a row. You know what I mean? He got his best shit off. Matias walked right through that shit like it was nothing. He was like, yeah, okay, that was cool. Now watch this. And then he mows through him. I'm here to tell you, there's really nobody at 140 I'd be afraid of him going up against, period. And I say that with all confidence, bro. And I'm not gassing everybody up like that. I'm here to tell you, I don't think there's anybody at 140 that he should be afraid of.
No, I agree. And I think that I said on Wednesday too, even if there's some guys that I think could maybe beat him, well, I'm not going to say that he can't beat those guys either. Like you said, I think he's live in there against any single person at 140 pounds right now. And a lot of people would probably favor him against all those guys. I want to give him respect too, because I always like keeping that same energy. Me and Felix were on last weekend. I picked Matias to win, so I kind of hedged my bet a bit, but I did say he was on a bit of like upset alert, or what I'm going to call it now is just dog watch. It's just for an underdog. I'm going to have like one little pick a week. I got one a little bit later, but he was on my dog watch for last week. I thought that Ergashev as an underdog, being a puncher, being just a good amateur, I thought he was going to be able to do some things and he'd be able to make Matias pay a bit. But I mean, man, he just wasn't able to do it at all. And I just Matias was able to get it going. What's up, Ray? You got something to say about that?
Yeah, what's going on right now? You're just coming up with all types of slogans and phrases.
Yeah, I got it.
Bro, I never thought of that. Like, bro, let's put that up there. Dog watch. He's got no Matias. Like, bro,
Jack is a walking billboard, bro.
Bro, we get in our bags on these Friday nights. We got to get the whole thing going for sure.
what's going on? This dude just has phrases that we need to be trademarking. Like, hey, man.
Hey, when the ITR merch hits, you already know Jack's store is gonna probably have the coolest looking shit.
Yeah, dog watch, bro. That's dope.
I like that no Matias though. I like that no
Matias.
Yeah, as for him, bro, I mean, we gave so much props to David Benavidez, right? Talked everything. He's David Benavidez with elite power, right? That's one thing we didn't say about David, that we don't know about his power, right? We talked about Canelo could probably take that punch or whatever. Yo, Matias has elite power, right? So yeah, he's David Benavidez with elite power. How are you gonna beat that? Like, can you knock him out? I don't know. Like, yeah, like Nib said a couple fights ago, yeah, we thought, but he always kind of looks like he's getting beat for a couple rounds. At least these past few fights. But once he turns that on, good luck. And a lot of these guys don't even want to take that chance, or their corners don't even want to take that chance. What, 5 in a row, 6 in a row? Let's stop it before we have to find out. So, yeah, I think Puerto Rico needs to get behind him. I think these promoters, they've been looking for a Puerto Rican fighter to promote. This guy is your Felix Trinidad. He is your Miguel Cotto. He might be better than them, right? So yeah, props to him at 140. I think it's him. I think it's Teofimo, and let's see what happens in about a week. But he might easily be the best at 140.
Yeah, I think there's certainly.
He's
able to take those shots.
Like,
there's the one thing I was saying a bit on Wednesday too, is that you're almost damned if you do, no matter what style you do. If you're a guy, you go in and you're like, okay, I'm going to try to give him my best shot, and I'm going to try to knock him out in those first 3 rounds, because I know if I don't do that, he's going to come and he's going to break me down eventually. Well, we've seen Ergashev and Ponce, 2 big punchers. Ergashev, especially a skilled guy in there, try that, and it didn't work out. If you want to be a boxer and you want to kind of stick and move and do that, I think you could do that for a few rounds. But like we saw with Andrade and with playing with Benavidez, I think you do that, you're almost kind of dying a slow death in there too. And I think that somebody who does you got to have a really good jab. You got to be really disciplined and stick to a real good game plan for 12 rounds to be able to beat Matias. And I think you could, if you could do that, you could beat Matias. But I think it's just a really hard ask too. I think you got to be maybe a Teofimo Lopez, a Devin Haney, if he's able to beat Regis Prograis. Those would be the 2 guys who I think would match up and maybe be able to beat him. And maybe I would pick them to beat him. But I mean, I'm not saying that with much confidence, because I wouldn't be shocked if he was able to break those guys down either at this point for sure.
The fight, knowing that though, like, do they think like, yo, I'm gonna try to get him out of here, and when they can't, they kind of just fall back, and that's a fight, because that's what it looks like in the ring, right? They're kind of going all out for Ponce did it, even this last fight, kind of putting it all on there, and then once he weathers that storm, it's kind of like they realize, all right, I'm done.
Yeah. Exactly what Nib said earlier too. Just if you're hitting, let's say Ergashev's hitting him with his best left hand, or Ponce's hitting him with his best left hook or right hand, and Matias might kind of back up a half step, but then he's going to keep moving forward. And when he's sticking that jab out there, and that jab is even affecting you more, or his little clubbing shots are affecting you more than your bombs are affecting him, I think these guys are almost more mentally and psychologically. I mean, they're physically beaten down without a doubt, but I think it's just as much the mental and psychological breakdown as it is the physical breakdown in there, which makes them such a damn problem.
Yeah, there's just something in those fights, like, and I don't know the point. I have to watch them again, but the tide changes, right? And I think it is when those guys land their best shot, and then hold on, Matias is hitting me with the jab, and I feel like I'm about to go out. Yeah, that's a style that's tough to beat, right? Like, I would think, like, shoot, yeah, let me see Tank against them, right? And Tank's obviously a 135-pounder, but like, can you take Tank's shot clean? Like, it's kind of coming down to that. Like, bro, can anything get you out of here? I think I'd put him number 1 at 140 for me. I think Teofimo's skill, power kind of carries that. That could give him a fight. And then, yeah, this fight with Regis and Haney. I think it's going to give us more to go off on. Like, Devin's been cutting weight for a while, and to me, he didn't look strong at 135. Now, if Devin comes in and does real damage to Regis, right? And let's say he looks stronger at 140, then yeah, his skills are gonna make him, competitive. But I think Matias, we got to put him. I think we got to put him number one. And this fight on the 9th, I believe, we're gonna have to wait till we see that until I say if they're gonna beat Matias.
Yeah, Pugilist brought up another good fight too that I'd like to see from Matias would be Gary Antoine Russell. I just want to see Gary Antoine Russell in the ring more too. I mean, he's somebody who I think at this point Matias has earned enough experience that he'd probably be the favorite. But that was one of those guys who I thought would have had a chance to beat Matias too. But just the more we see Matias roll, I think the harder it is for me to pick Gary in that fight. But I do think Gary's a live dog. He's one of these guys who's competitive with anybody at 142. So I would certainly be down to see that fight.
Bro, I think it's even more impressive to get the no mas than it is to put it out on his ass, right? Like, you get somebody to say, yeah, nah, I don't want no more smoke. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
5 in a row too, not just 1 or 2. 5 dudes in a row have done that, which is crazy.
To me, because we all know we've been in those boxing gyms. We've been watching boxing for a while. You know, most of us. I know Jack's a little bit newer, but still. To be a fighter, you got a whole different mentality, bro. These dudes are different. You know what I'm saying? They most of them are willing to walk through any kind of fire to get their shit off. So the fact that you got 5 grown men who said, "Nah, I'm good. It's a wrap." You know what I mean? And killers too. We're talking about dudes who got legit power that he's fought. He's not fighting cupcakes at this point, right? And they're all been like, "Yeah, nah, man, I'm good. Go ahead. You got that, player." Hey.
It's so much more impressive too in this sport because that's like the ultimate sin as a fighter to commit. And he's made 5 of them in a row do it. That's crazy. That's a crazy stat.
Hey, Felix, and nobody is blaming any of them.
Right.
Like nobody's like saying, "Oh, he quit." Like, hey, we're like, "Hey, bro, you saved your life with that decision." That's the crazy part. And we talked about it on Wednesday, like quitting. Hey, there's a lot of people that quit. But the narrative around it is if I like you or what's happening, where, Matias has a body in the ring and these guys are choosing not to come out. Like, we don't even say they quit. We're saying, oh, they chose not to come out. Bro, like, hey, bro, hey, you wanted to live? I don't blame you. Like, Matias is the real deal. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if anybody beats him. I don't think he called out just about everybody post-fight, right? I saw Teofimo say that he heard his name as he was walking in the arena. He kind of tried to throw a little, I was walking in as that fight was ending. All right, bro. Like, Teofimo, you're my guy, but, yo, that might be the guy at 140. Like, you can't ignore him.
Yeah, no matter what, I know I want to see him in these big fights. 140 we talked about is probably the most stacked division. It might not have it's getting some names there. It didn't have some names just a few years ago, but you go to 15, 18, legit 20 different world-class guys where some weight classes don't even have 5 or 8 of those guys. So they got 20 guys better than like the top 6 or 7 guys maybe at middleweight. Just shows the depth. And there's some good fighters at middleweight, but just the depth of 140 way deeper than any other weight class we got right now. And it ain't even close.
Well, and it's not even only like the talent, the 140, because there's a lot of boxing, a lot of deep boxing people that could give me names, right? I'm like, oh, okay, like I'll take your word for it. He's really good. Like 140, not only does they have names, they have personalities. They have guys that from all walks of life are pulling for, right? Like, oh, you're just a casual. You like social media. Oh, you got Ryan Garcia. You got Rolly. You got Tank. Or you like the skills, I don't know, throw me out some skillful guys. You got Gary Antoine Russell, all the it has everything. And like Jack said, we're naming like 20 guys. And this isn't just from a hardcore boxing fan, like, oh, I can name 20 140 pounders. Like, no, bro, these are 20 guys that even casuals want to see at this point. So it's crazy. I think 140 is the best. Quan Chi, what up? I know you're always there, bro. What up, man? Felix the Cholo since when? Apparently since today. We're taking over catch and counter.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if he's ever been on your guys' chat feed, but this is our resident of the boxing shop, Quan Chi over here.
Yeah, we appreciate it. You know, we bring you guys a lot of support. You guys are bringing us some too, so we appreciate it. And then Ray, they got some respect for your drip in there too, so we gotta respect that without a doubt too. But moving on to now the last fight that we had, the opener of the pay-per-view card. So another fight that I thought a guy who was kind of on some dog watch was Hector Garcia, but I did still pick him to win this fight, Lamont Roach. So he went out there and took it. I mean, Hector had some good moments early in the fight. Kind of a suspect knockdown called in the 12th round. It seemed kind of a bit behind the head, but it was also just the weird timing. Hector kind of turned a bit. And to me, I'm actually cool with it being called a knockdown, even if I didn't think it was a knockdown, because I thought Lamont Roach definitely won the fight 8-4. And had that not been called a knockdown, it would have actually been a split draw, and he wouldn't have been able to become a world champion. Someone who's been through a lot of adversity, been there, almost had a world title, lost to Jermall Herring, came back and was able to take care of business and pick up one over one of the most, I think, underrated fighters, still Hector Garcia in boxing. Me and Felix have talked about the runs he's been on. He's had some great performances. Even he lost to Tank, but there ain't no shame in losing to a guy like Tank Davis. He still performed well in that fight too. So, Nibs, what'd you think about Lamont Roach? You know, really taking the fight. I thought it was an even fight first 8 rounds, and he really closed the show just like we want to see these guys.
Oh, we got a screenshot of Jack right there. He's frozen. Sub-Zero came and got that ass. Mortal Kombat, baby. There he is. He's back.
Yeah, man.
We back.
I think Hector Garcia was still kind of drunk off of what Tank did to him, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Getting your ass whooped by Tank, there's no shame in it, but you either come out a little bit better because of it, or you come out a little bit worse for the wear. And I think he's still a little bit worse for the wear. Hats off to Lamont. I actually did pick him to win the fight. I didn't put any money on it. I felt bad about that later. We won't talk about that. But, hats off to him, bro. I think it's a little too quick to be calling out all these other bigger names. I know you got to be confident in yourself because of the way, you won the fight. But let's be real clear. It's still deep out there. There's still some deep waters at 135, bro. And I don't know if you're ready. You still kind of waiting out. You ain't past the buoys yet. So we'll see, because some real sharks out there at 135, and I don't know if he wants any smoke with Shakur or a Tank. I don't, payday wise, it makes sense. So let's be real clear, you're not on that level yet.
So let's be real. Yeah, there's a lot of guys. You named him. Raymond Murataya takes that belt easy. But hey, man, you fight who's in front of you. We watched the fight. He beat Hector Garcia. Props to him, right? That's what we're talking about, right? With boxing fans, I turn into a major hater. Like, all right, bro, he just had the biggest win of his life, and I'm talking about who could beat him. So that's what I do, I guess. But shout out to him. But at the end of the day, I think you're food at 135, especially, right?
And remember, the fight was at 130 too, so he is now a champ. So it's a WBA title, but it is at 130 now too. So I think he's a free agent now too. There's rumors he might go to Top Rank. I know Top Rank has Navarrete. They have Oshaki Foster. They have a bunch of contenders over there too. They have Conceição, Oscar Valdez, Abraham Nova, Henry LeBron. So if he does go to Top Rank, I think that would probably be the best move for him at this point, because I think there's a lot of good fights for him there at 130 pounds for sure.
Yeah, but even at 130, bro, he's still low man on the totem pole as far as I'm concerned. Again, great fight. Congratulations. Enjoy your win. Enjoy your belt. You're going to get a nice little bag on your next fight. Hopefully your management lines it up right where you can get at least one defense in before you start swimming with the big boys. But, he even called out some 135 names. And I'm like, hey, slow down, buddy. You know what I mean? Keep yourself at 130 where you got a shot.
Yeah, I know even my guy Jermall Herring saw that, because Herring beat Lamont Roach for a few years ago for a title fight. So he's like, hey, good win, but if you want to run that thing back, I'm not against that now too, because I came back. So I think, like you said, a lot of guys are kind of circling him, and they better be careful though, because I think Herring looks at it, and a lot of guys look at it as they can beat Lamont Roach, but I think Roach has also grown. He's matured a bit. I think he's got one of those guys who's gotten better in each of his last few fights too. And even if he'd be the underdog against some of these guys like he does last weekend, I think he's still certainly a live dog in there too, and can cause another upset.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch that fight, so I wanted to ask you guys too. How did Hector look? Did he look like Hector, or did he look like a shell of his former self?
Yeah, to me, he kind of he looked sharp in moments. I just think that he just couldn't pull the trigger enough. And I think when they look back and they watch the fight, I think that they're going to look at certain things where they could have maybe pressed a bit more. What gave him so much success against Chris Colbert was he was able to be a pressure fighter, and he was able to really kind of walk down and kind of just, like we mentioned with Matias, not on that level, he was able to kind of take the fight out of Chris Colbert. And we never saw that. If anything, I think he gave Lamont Roach a lot of confidence in this fight to be able to stand in the pocket. And Lamont Roach doesn't have a ton of knockouts, but I think he's got more power than I think he gets credit for. I think you saw he was able to affect Hector. I just think that part of it could be, I think Lamont's got more pop than people think for a guy with 9 knockouts. I think part of it could be the lasting effects from the Tank fight. But to me, he looked sharp in moments, just wasn't able to pull the trigger enough. But I think some of that credit, obviously, most of that credit, if not all of it, has to go to Lamont Roach because he didn't allow him to do it either, for sure.
Is it a fight that you recommend running back to watch?
I mean, bro, you guys know me. I would say it was a good fight. I think there were a lot of tentative moments in the fight, to say the least. It was still a chess match, so I enjoyed it. But I think there were a lot of kind of tentative moments in the fight. So I think that casual fan might not like it. I think you know enough about both guys that you might want to, just not having seen it, you might want to kind of just see it to see how it played out. But I mean, it's not going to be a fight of the year or anything like that.
No.
That was
being real political right now.
That was the political correct way of saying I don't know about that, but I wanted to give him a chance.
No.
That was one that I was like, I think I had told y'all when you guys were predicting, I was like, I just don't know if Hector Garcia has that hunger, right? Because he came when he came in, I guess, on the main stage where we're gonna see him, he was an underdog, right? And he won. Then he won again. So, those are fights that probably he should have lost. So he was kind of working with house money, right? And by the time he gets the Tank, he gets a lot of the money. So I had doubts just based off that. And then Lamont Roach, you see a loss to Herring. He was kind of a big prospect at one time. I missed the fight, but I wasn't too mad at it. So Felix, without seeing it, hey, don't watch it, bro. We're good. I'm good on it. You're good on it. Lamont Roach won. He's probably going to lose to whoever he fights next. But yeah.
I will definitely watch it. And I want to shout out Bean too, man. I think we got a new nickname for Jack. I mean, look, a lot of times in show business, people change their last names. And I think Jack Frost, the coldest man in boxing, is the new name, bro.
Yo, that's cold, man. I've seen that over there. I want to talk about that. That's cold. And then to Adam, he was talking about the heavyweight division. He mentioned the hottest. I don't know what the original quote was, but he's right there, bro, because there's a lot of names on that. Like this December 23rd card, a lot of names on it. We got Francis Ngannou hopping in. I just read that Zhang. I know a lot of you guys are fans. He said Ngannou kind of got the offer and was like, nah, right? So, heavyweight division. A lot of people sleep on it, but there are a lot of good fighters there. But I think I still might be rolling 140, my favorite personally.
Yeah, me too. And trust me, bro, Francis Ngannou, you made the right choice of dodging that Jelly Zhang smoke at this point. I think fair to say. I mean, if you get a big bag in China, maybe take that fight. But unless you're getting a huge bag in there, southpaw like that can move and box like that, Joe Joyce already fucked around and found out. I don't want to see the same fate for you, my guy, too. But we'll move on because I know Nibs has got a lot to say about this fight that we had. It was an afternoon fight. Undisputed versus undisputed. It was Chantelle Cameron against Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor sneaks out the victory. I know Nibs has got a lot to say about that and about this thing. So I'll give him the floor for this one. So Nibs, take it away on this one. No lead-in necessary. I'll just let you handle this one for now, for sure. Let's get it.
Hold on, Nibs. Think about what you're about to say, bro.
He's thought about it. He's thought long and hard about it. So we're about to hear it. Let it rip.
All right, but I'm going to preface what I'm about to say by saying this. If you look at the women's division of boxing, period, not just divisions, weight classes. I'm talking about women's boxing in whole, right? Right now, of the active fighters, there's 3, maybe 4 of their best fighters that are going to be in the Hall of Fame right now, right? Should be. there's 3 shoe-ins. There's obviously the top 3: Clarissa, Amanda, Katie. Right? They're going to the Hall of Fame. Should be first ballots. First thing smoking. Right? With that being said, the amount of love that Katie Taylor gets, to me personally, is unwarranted. And I'll say this: look, yeah, I know Ray's in love with her, so I already know he was gonna hate this. But I'm gonna tell you something. Look, okay, and I'm saying this, and I'm gonna say this very clearly. I'm a fan. Internationally, she did nothing but win gold medals. Right? She's 23-1 on paper. In my mind, she's 21-3. And I think she lost both her fights to Chantelle Cameron. I think the first one was a little bit more obvious. The second one, I don't know what everybody else was watching. I thought she lost that fight. It was close. So the fact that she won, I'm not upset with, but I thought she lost. I thought she got beat by Amanda when they had their fight, right? She's had some other really close fights. So when I say that, people are automatically saying, there are people now saying she's the GOAT. There's a lot of people saying now, she's a living legend. For me, for you to get those statuses, right? It's not just about the fact that you want to fight, it's how you win these fights. How are you winning these fights? Are they convincing? Are you smoking these bitches off? You've got at least 2 of your wins that make you, this living legend. I think you clearly lost. Fuck around. I know Ray is going to say what he's got to say. He's pulling up numbers, all this other here bullshit. Numbers be damned. When you watch a fight,
Journalism,
I watch a fight and I go, that person lost. That person won. You can pull all the numbers out your ass all you want to. Now, with that being said, if you go by the numbers, yeah, Katie Taylor is still number 3 on my list when I go pound for pound. And I say that strictly because I think Clarissa Shields in another stratosphere as far as women's boxing is concerned. I think Amanda Serrano is the epitome of pound for pound because she's done it in the most weight classes and been the most successful. And I think she actually won the first fight with Katie Taylor. I'd love to watch them fight again. I am on record saying that a million times. Give me a repeat of that first fight any day of the week. I'm watching that shit. I don't care where they're fighting at, right? To me, again, it was the best fight I had seen, period, that year, no matter what sex it was that was in the ring. They showed you what boxing is all about. But for me, Katie Taylor's not the GOAT. I think she's 3rd at best, and I think she's okay. I think she's good. She's got heart. She does win fights, but she's barely winning these fights. So to call her like this walking, living legend, and she's the GOAT, and she's this, that, and the third, okay. You can say it because she's got the wins, right? So, I could be talking out of my ass just because, hey, let's face it, she is 23-1. She is undisputed, right? She's done things for boxing that a lot of other people can't or say that they've even attempted to try to do. But for my money, she's not better than Clarissa. She's not better than Amanda. I think she's 3rd at best, and she'll be all right. I think that if she runs it back with either one of those girls, I think if she runs it back with Chantelle or Amanda, she loses that fight. I think her best option right now would be to retire and ride off into the sunset with all her belts and all of her accomplishments. And then that way you can't really argue with it. You're like, oh well, she retired on top, bro. It is what it is. But I think if she runs it back with either one of those girls, she takes L's.
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, Nibs, if she runs off with all her belts, she's probably going to need you behind her to help carry some of those, right? Because she's undisputed in 2 weight divisions. I'm not putting her pound for pound number 1. I'm not. Yeah, Clarissa, hey, you're better. Who else we talking? Surround, you're better. I'm talking about she came back off of a loss that nobody gave her credit from, and she won that fight. That was the most impressive thing of the year for me. I think we talked about it on Wednesday. Like, what older fighter, lost the fight and then came back in the rematch when they all counted them out and won? I think we had Hopkins mentioned, right? But did Hopkins lose that fight? I don't remember against Pascal. Or was it a draw?
I'll look.
Look it up. You're on mute, Jack. You're Jack Frost. You're on mute.
and then not to compare Katie Taylor to Muhammad Ali or anything like that. I know Nibs might pass out if we do that, and I'm not doing that for anyone. But I did say that Muhammad Ali lost to Leon Spinks the first time, and then he came back and won. Just as an example of an older fighter who lost the first fight and then won the second fight.
Don't feel bad about it, Jack. Don't feel bad about it. That's where we're at. That's where Katie Taylor.
No. Settle down.
That's where Katie Taylor's at. Like, she lost the fight convincingly, right? She lost that fight against Cameron.
Hey Nibs, that remove button I could hit on him real quick. I'm not going to.
And then this rematch happens, and everybody's thinking like, "Oh, this is her farewell. Whatever. She's gonna lose again. She's just trying." Bro, she won that fight easy. I know. I just looked up punch stats. Nibs saw me looking up numbers. Like, she was outlanded like 8 out of 10 rounds by Taylor. So, I mean, forget the skills or where we want to put her pound for pound or whatever. Like, hey, cool. Don't list her on that.
Must be drinking. So cheers.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get one after this. But she won that fight, and she dug down deep and put on a performance. Did she hold a lot? Yeah, but she did what she had to do to get that win. And to me, that was kind of maybe the most impressive win of the year, right? Because, like I said, she was older. People expected her to lose. She had already lost to her. And she went out and did her thing. So yeah, Nibs, you don't got to put her number one. You don't got to put her number 2, 3, 4, whatever. But she won this fight Saturday, which nobody picked her to. So props to her.
Yeah, Pugilist brought up another good fighter, Tito Mercado, a sleeper at 140. He's got a lot of momentum. I think he's an independent guy right now, but they're starting to move him the right way. He'll be in a big fight soon. Ryan Garcia fight, I think, going to be around like 11 p.m. on the East Coast tomorrow, give or take. Don't quote me on that. We got to see how the undercard goes, but that would be 9 o'clock Mountain Time, 8 o'clock on the West Coast, I believe. Maybe it's closer to 8:30, 9, I don't know, but somewhere kind of in that time. I think the card starts at 8 Eastern Time. But
and if we're putting, before you go ahead, if we're putting comments on there, can we put up that Katie Taylor in a ski mask? Let's go. Let's go, Marty. Let's go.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, and I confirmed it was a draw, Pascal and Hopkins.
Okay.
Hey, so there we go. Like, it's not even like Hopkins lost that fight. Katie Taylor lost the first fight. No, and as an older fighter, nobody thought she was gonna win. She was a big underdog, the smaller woman, and she came out and performed, man. So yeah, I'm high on that victory. You know,
there's Rent, as I'm looking at this fight though, just like stood out to me. I'm looking at the scores: 114, 112, 114, 114, and 113, 113, 113. Where the hell? How do we have a 114, 114, and a 113, 113? Obviously, one of those judges didn't do something, so that fight could have gone in Hopkins' favor. If it was, I'm gonna have to look into that and see what happened with that. That's weird.
It was probably in Canada, wasn't it?
It was in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, do they even do math like we do math?
Yeah. Yeah, that is weird. But even it was good to throw up that ski mask quote too, because I do think Chantelle and her team, I think they feel like they got a little robbed in this fight. I'm gonna say, because I did pick Katie Taylor. I didn't pick her to win, but I did thought she probably won 6-4, maybe a 5-5. I just thought it was a good competitive fight that could have gone either way. But I do think for Chantelle Cameron's team, I think they have a right in some rightful gripes in this fight. I think that in the first round, kind of looked like a slip, but when you look back on it, I don't think Chantelle stepped on Katie's foot. I think Katie's foot was in the air. And was she hurt, really? No, but I think that was a legit knockdown that they missed. Now, it didn't end up impacting the scoring, but we didn't know that at the time. So I think they look at that and say, okay, so we missed out on that. And so, all right, we keep going forward. Then later on.
Where did this fight take place?
Ireland, of course, as you know. So Katie Taylor's hometown. The first fight was there too. But even just I'll get you 1 second. Ray. I just want to finish this point real quick. But and even going on, just when you get to it, didn't affect on the scorecards. But you also had a 98-92 scorecard for Katie Taylor. No, I did think Katie Taylor could have edged out the fight, and I know what Ray's saying about the punch stats. I think Katie Taylor does a lot of shoe shine punches, and I just thought Chantelle's work probably was more. Even the punch stats don't tell the story sometimes. So I think that 8-2 is way too wide of a card. And then just even the holding. And don't get me wrong, that was a good strategy by her because she wasn't warned at all. Any fighter who is able to get away with it, it's not the most aesthetically pleasing thing to watch. But you're damn right. If any of us were in that situation, of course we're going to go and hold on. But that doesn't make it right. The referee didn't even give her a warning at all. And I think Chantelle Cameron, that's another thing, that another rightfully gripe that I think they have in that fight too. So I think that seems like for as good as Katie is, it seems like she always has all these advantages. And I know the A sides always do have all these advantages, but and I think Nibs' point of what we're saying, it's not even coming as a point to hate Katie Taylor, because we're big fans of Katie Taylor too. It was more the people coming out to say, oh, that fight shows me that she's the number one pound for pound fighter in the world. That fight shows me that she's the GOAT. And I'm like, and this isn't even hating because it's just keeping it real, but that fight to me shows that she's not number one pound for pound. And there's no shame in that. She can walk into the Hall of Fame tomorrow if she really wanted to. But at the end of the day, I just think that's the skills that Clarissa Shields is at a higher level. When we saw Clarissa Shields fight Savannah Marshall, another pound for pound fighter, there was no doubt who won that fight. Katie Taylor has a fantastic resume. There are a few fights in there where did she win that fight? Nibs broke down a few of them with Clarissa Shields. Even if you want to say the competition isn't the same, when she's fought those other pound for pound females up there, there ain't no debate in that. So I just wanted to say that. And fantastic win for Katie Taylor. If she does call it quits, she's got every right to. Can't go wrong either way if she wants to run the camera and fight back a third time, or if she wants to fight Serrano. But at the end of the day, there is only one quote, and that is Miss Clarissa Shields.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say the knockdown, right, or the slit. I think it was a knockdown.
Okay.
But I don't think it was like some fix because everybody's saying, "Oh, she knocked down as a fix." If you look at where the knockdown happened, look where the ref was, and look where their feet are. Like you can't tell, and it was a jab, right? Like she obviously wasn't hurt, so I don't think some fix was in. I do think it was a knockdown, but I don't think that changed who won the fight. Like I said, like Katie Taylor was outlanding her. But I guess my point is I just don't think there's some fix in to get her the fight. Yeah, hey Nibs, it happened in Ireland, but I don't think that there was some fix. And I don't think she's number one pound for pound, but I do think she might be the GOAT, right? Like, hey, it's an argument.
Yeah, we might agree to disagree on that, but there are a lot of people who do say that. And I'm not even going to say it's a fix. I just think from Cameron's point of view, you can see why they would be kind of pissed off with a few of those things. With a close fight, they thought they might have won. If Katie gets a decision, that's cool. I think the scorecards were a bit wide, and they're looking at it saying, oh, if that knockdown was the other way around, it probably gets called, or maybe we're not allowed to hold like that. So I'm with you. I think refereeing, just like in any of these sports, it's a hard-ass thing to do. No doubt about it. Judging, even for as much as I get on these judges, we've shown the top rank has shown where you could have three judges set up on three different spots where one judge, it looks like the guy gets clipped, and one judge, it looks like the guy doesn't even land the shot. So it is hard for these things, but I think that Cameron's team has a rightful gripe in some of these things also. Just they can feel like they might have got cheated out a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give the ref some bell. It's first round. He was in the position he was, and it was a jab. Like, you see a jab thrown out, you're not going to think that the GOAT got dropped on that, right? Like, yeah, I think he saw where they were, and it could have easily been like, oh, she stepped on her foot. Now, I don't think she stepped on her foot. Like, I think she caught her off balance, hit her with a good jab, knocked her down. But I don't think it was some fix. And I don't think it's fair to Katie Taylor to be saying, like, oh, that fight was rigged. Like, I think she won it legitimately. Referee missed the call. But at the same time, I don't think that call determined the fight. Yeah.
And hey, we're going to agree on that. And we're going to agree on another thing, too. You said that the ref didn't think, oh, the GOAT wouldn't go down from a shot like that. And of course, you're right. The GOAT wouldn't have, because Clarissa Shields was in the ring. She was probably chilling in Flint, Michigan, doing her thing in there. So I agree on that absolutely 100%. But Nibs and Felix, any other last comments on this fight before we move on to the Ryan Garcia whole situation before we wrap things up?
Go ahead, Nibs.
All right, look, man, and I said it before, and I'll say it again. If she fights either Chantelle or Amanda again in a neutral setting right now, she loses both of those fights.
Yeah, I agree too.
I guarantee. And I do think that I won't necessarily say it's a fix, Ray. I'm not going to say that. I do think that, to your point, I do think that the ref missed that call. Honestly, right? I don't think he was not calling the knockdown because it's Katie Taylor. I think he was out of position. But I do think that if that fight was in a neutral location, those scorecards are a little bit closer. than they were. I think Katie Taylor got a little bit more favorable scoring because she is Katie Taylor. That's the point I'm trying to point out is people give her so much grace because of who she is, and they forget that there's another woman in that ring who's doing work too. That's all I'm saying. And a neutral location, those scorecards are different. Now, with that being said, I still think that Katie Taylor right now tomorrow can walk into the Hall of Fame. She's one of the most accomplished fighters, period. I love watching her fight. Like, I mean, she's a dog, bro. Like, if anything, she proves in this fight, hey, look, I want to run it back. This bitch beat me. Let's go at it again, right? There's nothing wrong with what Katie Taylor has done. My problem is with people automatically promoting her to the best that ever did it because, yeah, she did pick up an undisputed in another weight class in a disputed fight, right? My thing is this. Clarissa Shields is, again, there's no argument that she's won her fights, right? She's done what she's had to do. Amanda Serrano's got legitimate titles in 7 different weight classes. How you put her above them, to me, is mind-boggling. Just because she's done what she's done, but you can dispute some of the wins on her resume. It is
you know what you can't dispute, Nibs?
Yeah.
Me being able to name any of the girls Clarissa Shields beat outside of maybe 3. Like Katie Taylor is in the mix, and to be undisputed in 2 weight divisions, that's what I think, carries her. But I'll say,
okay, since we're doing pound, like if they were in the same weight class, Clarissa Shields beats the shit out of Katie Taylor. Period.
Why? Because she's bigger?
No, I'm saying
if they're the same weight, the dimensions are all equal.
Yeah. If you put them in the same weight class, Katie Taylor gets her ass whipped. Period. She doesn't get knocked out, but she gets her ass whipped for 10 rounds, and it's over. Like,
look my big takeaway.
Not great. I'm just saying she's not better than. There were people ahead of her, and that's what I'm saying. Like, people are saying she's the best thing. I'm like, she's not really. She's one of, but she's not the best.
I'll say this. I have no problem putting Clarissa Shields number 1 pound for pound. Skills wise, go ahead, do your thing, jab, run, do what all you got to do. 2 gold medals, you can't take that away. All the belts she's won, but for Katie Taylor, like I think the biggest thing is for her taking that loss. And maybe you would say, like, well, yeah, Clarissa Shields wouldn't take no loss. But for Katie Taylor taking that loss at that point in her career and coming back and beating that same girl, months later, to me that's what I'm holding so high. If Clarissa Shields is a better boxer, 100% Nibs. I'm not mad at that. But I just think this win was kind of historic in the case. So that's what I would say. And I'll finish with this. Keep women's boxing 2-minute rounds, because that's why I'm even talking about this fight. If this fight is 3-minute rounds, bro, I'm probably not going to want to watch that. But 2-minute rounds, you got action throughout. And I think that's what made the fight so good. So I don't think 3-minute rounds is the answer to women's boxing. I'm going to end with that.
I think Katie's just the perfect fighter for those 10 2-minute rounds, too. I think that there's a reason when Serrano asked her about the 12 3-minute rounds, she was like, hell no to that. And I didn't just because her style fits that perfectly. You see, just even if this fight was 12 3-minute rounds, I think Chantelle would have been able to kind of pull away. I think the longer the fight went, it changes the work rate and all those things like we mentioned. But I think the holding would have been a lot harder for Katie to sustain if you're talking a 36-minute fight instead of a 20-minute fight. So I agree with that 100%. I mean, I still think that it's funny because we just spent 20 minutes like disagreeing, but agreeing at the same time, but then disagreeing at the same time too. But at the end of the day, I think we're all kind of on the same page on that. But we'll move on now quickly to the last fight. We got a lot going on. At first, this was going to be just a fight preview. We got here. We do respond to comments, and we're going to see this one. You said, do you think Ryan Garcia is weight trained to enter this fight? Well, I damn sure hope not, because he's fighting at 143 pounds now. So if he's weight trained, then something's been going on in that camp. He's been, I don't know what's going on. But the fight was supposed to be at 140. It's now at 143. Apparently, it's been that way since day one. But Oscar was just saying yesterday how there was for like some WBA, like one of their million on 140-pound titles. So if it was always at 143, you would have never had a title on the line. I think that's one of those things where something probably happened. So he's saying Ryan wanted 143 pounds. Yeah, well, I mean, that ain't the best sign out there whenever you see a guy last second decide that you want more weight on there or whatever. But it happens. So said Oscar weighed in at 143 pounds. Yeah, they weighed in at 143. So, but it was supposed to be 140. So clearly Ryan or somebody wanted to change the weight. But yeah, that doesn't matter. We got a lot going on with Golden Boy too. But Nibs, first of all, what are your thoughts on Ryan against Oscar Duarte? And then I guess what are your thoughts on Ryan against Golden Boy? Because we've seen a lot going on with that recently too. Him going at Oscar and going at Bernard Hopkins.
I think Ryan's got a harder fight outside the ring than he does inside the ring. I think he on paper he should beat this Duarte kid. Not taking anything against Oscar Duarte. I mean, he's got a hell of a resume. He's decent so far. I think he's only got one loss. He seems to be a knockout artist. He's got some decent knockouts on his ledger. But Ryan Garcia, I'll say this, man. It's hard for me to kind of gauge where he's at because skill wise, we saw the discrepancy between him and the elite fighters when he fought Tank. Right? He's nowhere near the level he needs to be to start chasing after these elite level fighters. So this Oscar Duarte kid might be able to get in there, and if he's got heavy hands, we've seen Ryan get knocked down before legitimately. Tank put that work in on him. Who knows? From what I understand, he's still dealing with that rib injury that he was dealing with before he fought Tank. If that's not healed up and he gets, he takes a couple of them body shots, he'd be out of there again. So it's kind of a coin toss if he's really dealing with that weight issue. I know he's another guy just like Haney who's been kind of like saying 147 is his future. He struggled to make the 135 for a long time. He didn't want to come down to fight Tank. He's been wanting to do the bigger weights. So, but I think that all of the shit that's going on outside of the ring between him and his promoter, I know he's got some personal shit he's dealing with too. I think that's probably his biggest detriment. So if he does lose this fight, it's probably more because of what the shit he's dealing with outside the ring than his actual opponent.
Yeah, I can see that, but I'm with our guy Gritty on there. So shout out to you, Gritty, in the chat as well. He thinks Ryan's dialed in. He's rooting for him. I'm rooting for it too. Ryan has kind of made me become a fan. I was a bit skeptical of him early on when I was first getting into the sport, but just with him showing the ability that he really wanted that Tank fight, when clearly Oscar and Bernard were in his ear telling him to go a different direction. Just he had the balls to make that fight. That's what we want to see. And then I got to give him a lot of props for how he was talking to those guys up there. And a lot of people said, I saw Gabe Rosado saying, who are you to talk to your promoters like that? Well, who are they as his promoters to talk about all those things about their fighter in all those interviews they've done? And of course it's going to come back at you, and at least it should. So I give Ryan a ton of credit for going up there and saying that. I think that's him maturing as a person as well. Let's get it. I know I mentioned Gabe Rosado, so that's probably why Ray wants to get in here. So
Gabe Rosado hold on. Does Gabe Rosado ever have a promoter that didn't bring him in to lose?
Oh my god!
Come on, bro. Come on, Gabe Rosado. There's levels, bro. Some promoters promote fighters. Some promoters bring people in to lose. Let's not get it twisted.
Jeez,
that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, he threw Ryan right under the bus on that one, which I didn't like. But hey, what are you going to do? But I think as far as this fight, I think what I was saying is I think Ryan's locked it. I think he's going to use that as motivation. I think when you see him talk, I think he might be – a lot of people don't like maybe how he's putting that energy out towards those guys and not to his opponent. But I think he's going to take all that out on Oscar Duarte tomorrow night. I think that Oscar is on some dog watch a little bit for me, so will be my pick. We don't have many big fights for this weekend, so that will be my pick. But he does come forward. He applies real pressure, and he does hit to the body really well. So if any of those questions about Ryan with the rib or being weak to the body, I think that those are things that a Duarte supporter can say, okay, he's going to be able to close the distance. Ryan doesn't have a great jab to keep him at range, so if Oscar is able to rumble and get into a fight, maybe he could kind of wear Ryan down a bit. But to me, I think that Oscar, he squares up a little too much. When I'm saying even the fight he lost, he just looks like he's open for the left hook. He got tagged with it a few times. And I think a guy like Ryan, these are the kind of guys that he wants to fight. He doesn't want to fight a guy that moves that he's going to have to chase down, or a guy like Tank who counters. He wants a guy coming right at him. So I just think that speed kills. They both have some of the stylistic advantages, the things that they're going to want to do. But I just see Ryan kind of buying his time a bit, waiting and then just shooting that left hook, and I think knocking Oscar Duarte out somewhere in those mid rounds. And I think that as long as Ryan Garcia is the fighter that a lot of people think he is, and even the guy who I think he is, he's not a pound for pound guy, but if he's going to be one of these names at 140 pounds, I think he's got to at least win. But I think he's got to knock out Oscar Duarte, and I think he will tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'll say I think props to Ryan Garcia. I'm sure he feels like his back's against the wall. Maybe that's taking away from him because he is going at his promoters. If you're not aware, while Oscar was there, he told Oscar basically like, hey, these guys are hoping for me to lose. Bernard Hopkins has said in a previous interview, he's going to watch Ryan Garcia fight and he'll determine, if he fights again or after that. Ryan Garcia took offense like, bro, you're not my manager. You're not my team. Like, you don't determine that. And then he went in on saying, you also said you'd never be knocked out or lose to a white boy, and Joe Smith knocked you out of the ring. So, yeah, he's taking personal shots at Hopkins, right? Like, legit, he's speaking facts. But, I kind of feel Ryan Garcia, bro. Like, as a promoter, they should be promoting you. So this is kind of weird from Oscar and Hopkins, kind of like almost not gassing him up, but kind of just, have him there. Oh, yeah, this fight's happening. I think Ryan's in with the real guy. Ryan said, oh, they want me to lose to this guy. And, hey, Ryan, you better be at your best because you might lose to this guy, right? Duarte's obviously tough. He has a loss on his record. But, when you see, not prospects or whatever, but the A side in against guys they're supposed to beat, usually that guy they're supposed to beat has a loss, has been knocked out. Like, Duarte has a loss, but it's a split decision, right? So, like, has anyone seen that fight? Like, that could have easily been a fight that he won. So, for them putting him in there with Duarte, props to Ryan for even taking that fight. And he better be dialed in. I know someone said he looks dialed in. He better be dialed in because I think he's in a real fight. I've seen other fighters talk about that they've sparred Duarte. They've seen him, and they said he hits hard. Like he's a real fighter. So I think we're getting a better than advertised fight come Saturday night.
Yeah. And I did see a bit of that fight he lost. I watched a bit of tape on it. Not the whole fight, but I did think that he probably did lose that fight. But even still, this is the definition of a high risk, low reward fight for Ryan. And I do think that Ryan will win. But I mean, talk about you're fighting, which we mentioned a bit Wednesday, but you have a guy coming off of a knockout loss, especially a knockout loss to the body, moving up to a new weight class. And I know they're dragging Duarte up from 135 now to 143, but you normally don't fight a guy who's a puncher, especially a relentless pressure fighter who's able to work and hurt guys to the body a lot. So even if that stylistically matches up good for a guy like Ryan Garcia, you would have thought they would have put him in maybe with kind of a guy who likes to bang but doesn't really have as much firepower coming back at him, because I do think Ryan will win, but it's a real concern that you've got to have coming off of the knockout loss, seeing how he responds.
Or even a guy that's been knocked out, right? Like, we don't even know that this guy can be knocked out. Said dragging up to 140. Shoot, Ryan versus Tank was at what, 136? So, yeah, Ryan probably more comfortable at that weight, but, it's not like Ryan was 147 and bringing a 35-pounder up. Obviously, Ryan probably could make 147 comfortably and look good, but his last fight was at 136 as well. So, I'm kind of with Ryan, man. Like, if you're the promoter, man, at least have his back, right? Like, at least kind of, be there for him. And it just doesn't seem like Hopkins or De La Hoya are. And it might go back to, I don't think they wanted that fight against Tank. I think that was Ryan pushing for that fight. But, hey, Ryan better do his thing. He's going to have a chance. You better do your thing. And I think the post-fight might be the most entertaining thing this weekend.
Right. Without a doubt. There's going to be fireworks for sure. And I'm with you, man. I've been loving the energy from Ryan. I mean, you guys are all right. They're the promoters that are supposed to promote, and they're not doing their job. They're like attacking them. I'm with Ryan. He's taking a stand, and, they're standing right there behind him, and he's speaking his mind. He's not afraid. You know what I mean? So I fuck with that vibe and that energy. So I'll be locked in tomorrow, and I'm rooting for Ryan too.
maybe Inside the Ropes needs to get in and promote fighters. You know, we need to show some of these cats how it goes. Because look, man, let's be real clear, bro. I mean, I don't know if any of us are really surprised about the drama because it seems like this is kind of what Golden Boy does, right? Like they get a golden goose and then they start treating them like shit. I don't know what the fuck that is. But if I'm Golden Boy, like Ryan Garcia is making you money. He is going to continue to make money because of where he's at in his career, right? Why wouldn't you want that to flourish? It kind of seems like they want him to fail when that's not where the money is, bro. You should want Ryan Garcia to keep being Ryan Garcia. You should want him to continue to be able to make you money. And it kind of seems like they're shooting themselves in the foot, having a problem with him. Like, I get it. You still got this beef because he wanted the Tank fight. So what? His loss to Tank generated more money than his next 3 fights will if he wins.
Than any of Oscar's fighters combined for this whole year, easily. Like, honestly.
Period. And let's face it, they got paid too. So shut the fuck up, take your paycheck, and do your job and promote your guy, bro.
Yeah. What's weird?
I go back to like what Canelo said during his last promotional run, one of those interviews, and he said his kind of thing that Oscar told him was like, hey, like you never give it all, right? Like you never give that big fight. Like you take a little, you take a little, you take a little, and Ryan and Canelo don't seem to be on that, right? Like if they're at this point where they could get the biggest fight, it seems like that's what they want. And maybe it's just a difference of opinions on how the business should work. But yeah, Ryan was in a position, he put himself in a position to fight Tank where that's what everybody wanted to see, and that's what he wanted. Obviously, the promoter didn't want that, and I don't know if that's what kind of soured things. But, Canelo was kind of in that position too, where like, hey, now we want to see him against Triple G. And if his promoter's saying like, no, that's going to be bigger later, it's just a difference of opinions. And Ryan seems to be against that. And, I don't know how many fights he has left, but if that's their business plan, which would make sense why Jaime Munguia has yet to fight anybody, which would make sense why Virgil Ortiz is fighting some guy. I have no idea who he is. Not everybody is going to go that route, right? Like Canelo, hey, no, give me the biggest fight. Ryan Garcia, obviously, give me the biggest fight. It just seems to be a difference of opinions, and where they're butting heads, we probably don't hear about it a lot, but Ryan Garcia is putting that right up front, and he's talking about it. So hopefully it doesn't get too, mixed up in his head, and he's able to go out there and perform because, even Oscar afterwards says, hey, and I felt like it was kind of trolling, right? Like, hey, I hope Ryan is okay mentally because I know he has gone through these mental health problems and he seems to be out of character. Like, bro, that's dirty, bro. That's your and that's
to tweet that shit too is that's fucked up,
bro. That's complete trolling. Like, Oscar, I'm with you, bro. I think a lot of this mental health stuff is BS, but bro, I see what you were doing. Like, I see you throwing that shot. And that's crazy if that's your promoter.
The mental health jab coming from somebody who was wearing pantyhose. I'm just saying, come on, bro.
It's crazy though. That was a good one. I give Oscar like 10 points for that one. 10 out of 10. That was a hitter right there because he if you know what I mean?
Yeah, bro, I mess with that move. That'd be something I'd say. You know what I mean? Like if I try to talk down on somebody, I'm gonna be like, oh, you're crying about that mental health. But Oscar, bro, you're a promoter. That's your biggest fighter. Like, why are you going to war with him? Like, so then it kind of gives more credibility to what Ryan's saying. Like, bro, they want to see me lose. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. But shoot, all the stuff outside of the ring, however entertaining it may be, I love it. Ryan still got to go in the ring and win if he wants us still talking about him.
Yeah, and the crazy thing when Oscar had made some of those comments Ray you were talking about is there was also when Canelo fought Bivol, and he was like, Eddie Hearn is such a dumbass, bro. I would never make that fight. It's like, bro, that's not the flex you think it is. Like saying, like, I would never test my guy like that. Like, it's not like what you think it is. And it's so damn hypocritical. It's like, dog, when you were a fighter, you took those big chances. Like when you came in to be a promoter, it was because, oh, I have the thinking of a fighter. I'm going to change the game. I'm going to be here for these guys. And what has he turned into? The old bitter promoter who's doing all these promotional bullshit things, and he became the guy that he despised, and he became the guy that Bob Arum was when he got away from him and all those kind of things. So that's what I think the worst part of it is that he thought he's now became his own worst enemy at the end of the day too.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I get it, Oscar. You fought the best people because you had that confidence in yourself, right? Like, yeah, you thought you could be. Well, these guys, Canelo, Ryan, they also think that. But now you're on the opposite side where it's like, hey, it's a business. I can make more money if you do this, you do this. It's just, it's crazy to see it all play out, actually. And the way that he's going at him, I feel Ryan Garcia. So if Ryan Garcia wins, I mean, what is Oscar right behind him when this happens?
Of course he probably will be.
I don't know. Is he?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think this is a good comment by Tyler too, just that with losses, sometimes they become lessons too, and you find out who the real ones are in your corner. I think that goes for all walks of life too. I think that's 100% a fact. You find out who's really with you when you're down at your lowest, because everybody wants to be with the guy at the top, and once you take a loss, you kind of start to see these kind of things 100%. But we'll go around.
I'll say to that, all losses are not equal.
Oh, 100%
right?
too.
And that's what I think boxers have to realize, and I think that's what promoters have to realize. Like, yeah, Ryan Garcia lost to Tank. Bro, we kind of thought he might lose to Tank. Also, like, really, Oscar, you didn't want him to take that fight, but I'm not mad he took that fight because I'm like, oh, he fought Tank. He's going to fight anybody.
His brand is bigger than ever now, too. He always had a big brand, but it's even bigger now because of it, too.
Yeah, and same thing. Like,
look what that fight ushered in. Like, look what happened. It was like a domino effect. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got the biggest fights. I mean, this year we've been spoiled as fuck. But you look at how that happened, right? And then to Ray's point, bro, like, you look at all. I mean, shit, Canelo's got losses, but does anybody give a fuck about those losses? Nah, because who did he lose to? You know what I'm saying? Like, even Charlo, he just got his ass whooped by Canelo. But if he comes back and gets his belts back, ain't nobody's gonna give him shit for that. Later on down the road. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah, they won't. And it's also like the only reason I'd say they may to Charlo is because how he fought that fight, right? Like, I felt like he didn't really fight. But if we keep it more recent to Andrade, if Andrade fights one of the top 160 pounders, I'm gonna be like, yo, Andrade goes in there to win. Yeah, he lost to David Benavidez. Who cares? A lot of people will lose to David Benavidez, but Andrade went in to win. And so when Canelo fights Benavidez, even the loser of that, I don't feel like they're out of the sport. It's like, oh, David Benavidez, you lost to Canelo? Well, dang, man. Well, yeah, Canelo has all this going for him or whatever. Or if Canelo loses, you going to tell me Canelo's not going to be able to get another fight? Like, all losses aren't equal, and we want to see the best fight the best. So, shout out to Ryan Garcia for doing that. And, Oscar and Hopkins, yeah, I get building a fighter up to that point. But you have to realize us as fans want to see great fights, and losses aren't the end all to us.
No. What I always say at the highest level, too, is when you got two great guys fighting each other, let's say if they're both kind of on a level right here. Yeah, the winner might move up to here. It doesn't mean the loser goes down to here. Sometimes you might lose a little stock. Sometimes you might even gain a stock in a loss. And a lot of the times, if you're fighting another great fighter, your stock will, worst case, just stay the same. Like, that's the thing I think people need to realize about these fights, too, is just because you lose to a great fighter, sometimes you think even higher of a fighter afterwards also.
And I'll add on to that, and maybe I'm wrong, but this is just me. It's like, yo, when a good fighter beats another fighter, that doesn't automatically mean you take all his fans and you move on. It's like, no, what did you present to us in the ring? Like, we kind of become attached to these fighters. And if I know David Benavidez is going to give it his all no matter what, I'm a fan. So if this other guy beats him, like, yeah, okay, props to you, but I'm still a fan. Demetrius Andrade, yeah, you lost, but shoot, you show me that you went, like you tried to win, right? And I think there's kind of some, misconception that, oh, you beat this guy, then you should be in the big fights. Like Shakur Stevenson, he won his last fight. Bro, his stock went down to me. I was talking that I don't see anybody beating Shakur. Shakur's number 1 pound for pound. Shakur, yeah, you won, but you went in the opposite direction because of the way you fought. So, I mean, boxing is kind of more about personalities and styles and what you're willing to risk, to me, than just having the perfect record.
Let's talk about that. Look at the people who lost this past weekend, right? Jose Benavidez is Jr. He didn't lose one fan. You probably gained fans. Like we were just talking about, this dude should get a bigger fight based off of his loss, right? Chantelle Cameron loses. Her stock is not dropping, bro. She probably gained more fans, right? You look at, like you said, Andrade. There's probably nobody on the planet in their right mind who picked him to win the fight. But he came out there, and if his corner hadn't stopped it, he'd went out again and probably got stopped. He was willing to go out there and go out on a shield. Like you said, if he fights somebody at 160, he probably mollywops them and gets another belt, or if anything else, he's going to go in there and fight his ass off. He's not, just running, right? So even the people that lost this weekend, you look at Errol Spence. Errol Spence hasn't lost any fans. You know what I mean? He lost to fucking Bud Crawford, bro. Like, you know what I mean? So nobody's losing fans if you're fighting the best guys. So if Ryan Garcia goes out there and he fights Tiafimo and loses, nobody's gonna give him shit because he fought fucking Tiafimo and lost.
And I think it's just on the kind of the opposite end where like, oh, I beat so and so now I should have all these fans, and I go to Bivol. Right? Bivol's like, oh, I beat Canelo. Why am I not getting this love? Why am I not pound for pound? Bro, like, yeah, you beat Canelo, but what did you do after that? Right? I mean, you beat Zurdo or whatever, but it's more style, it's more personality. It's not just about beating this guy. Like Shakur is like, oh, I got the win. That's all I needed. Yeah, cool. For your record, that's all you needed. But we don't really want to see you anymore. Bivol has been kind of, where's Bivol been? I felt like if anybody fumbled the bag, he fumbled the bag. He thought he beat Canelo, and all of a sudden, all Canelo's fans are gonna be all about him. Like, bro, you won a decision. You didn't really do too much damage, and then now you want to call shots. Like, man, it doesn't work that way.
And I think now in an era too where fighters are more, it's not the undefeated era. Let's say that, you know what I mean? So losses are being more, it feels like losses are being more accepted like other sports by casuals, where before it was more harsh from them. Boxing purists like us, we kind of are more understanding. So the biggest star in the sport losing to Bivol didn't hurt his stock at all, because I think people know what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For example,
I would go to Ryo. Ryo lost. Oh, my bad, Jack. But Ryo lost to Los Santos. Ryo goes and fights Colbert in an entertaining fight, right? Like big platform, entertaining fight. Guess what? We want to see that fight again. And guess what? He's on, the last card of Showtime, but a big platform again is what I'm saying. So yeah, once again, all losses are not created equal, man. Like, go out, fight, and fight to entertain the people, right? And I feel like that's how you build a fan base. That's how you build viewers. It's not all about just a loss or undefeated record.
Yeah, and just to prove that point, all I was going to say is that Subriel Matias has a loss. He lost to Petros and Nanyan, came back and ended up stopping him, made him quit in the corner. But I don't even know if you guys would even remember that. So this is another example of most people honestly forget that even happened. So as long as it's not about how you lose, it's about how you come back from the loss. So I agree with that 100%. The last thing, we're just going to mention this quickly because it is now 2:10 East Coast time. So it's a late one for me out here. But Michael Conlan is fighting Jordan Gill. Do you guys care at all about this fight? Before I will just mention it quickly, but I don't think, does anybody care? Is anyone going to even watch it? Probably not, but I figured I'd throw it out there.
Take it away.
I think Conlan is a good personality, right? Like, earned it during the Olympics. But, bro, it's only so much that you could continue to live off that. But to his credit, he is in entertaining fights, right? Win or lose. But if I don't catch him fight. Like, hopefully I see a highlight. I don't really care too much, man.
Yeah. So I mean, all I say is she's fighting Jordan Gill. Jordan Gill's a guy who's had some big come from behind knockouts, but he's with Matchroom. I do think this is the fight that they expect Conlan to win. I expect Conlan to win. I don't know where he fits in right now because it's like even if he wins, you're going to put him in a title shot. I'm not sure, but he's probably going to go more the route of fight the UK guys over there and kind of do that scene. I think that's probably better off for him at this point too.
I think he's going to end up being a career opponent at some point. Like I think he's a good talent, but he's not like, elite level. You know what I mean? He's a really good B level fighter as far as I'm concerned, bro.
Yeah. And to everything we've said, though, I would say, Conlan gives it his all when he's in these fights. And for the most part, it's always an entertaining fight. So, I think we'll get a good fight out of it. But if we're talking about, is he going to be the best at that division? I don't know. But also, man, so a lot of times there's very few champions, right? Like we always complain that, there's too many champions. But when you really look at it, there's very few champions. So if we get guys that are just always in good fights, I think that's important too, man. And kind of what keeps the sport going forward.
Yeah, and then I'll just throw this up there because we always like to keep these viewers involved. Was your thoughts on Spence Crawford rematch if it happens? I think I'm not going to speak for all of us or let anyone speak that they need to, but I think Spence can perform better at 54. I just think that the counter punching of Bud, I just think he's got too many tools in his toolbox. I just think that I don't see how the fight could go. I think it could be a more competitive fight. I have a hard time picking against Bud in the rematch. I'm guessing you guys would echo that, but if anyone has anything to say on that, the floor is yours.
That fight could happen at heavyweight, and Bud still whips his ass.
I mean, if Spence isn't high,
if he does not take an edible before he goes in the ring, maybe.
But like being for real, watching that last fight where Spence was able to hit him with, I thought, that's a good shot, and it kind of did nothing. It'd be hard for me to pick Spence, and I was all in on Spence. It'd be hard for me to pick Spence at 54 or at any weight, as Nick said. But I don't know, man. I want Spence to win, but I can't the path to victory right now. And going back to Ryan Garcia this weekend, if Derek James loses again, bro, he's got to get out of town. He's got to go. He's got to go.
Yeah. Last thing is we'll give we like to on the show, we'll give predictions on the fight so you can think for Ryan Garcia, Oscar Duarte. Who do you think is going to win? And if you have a how or the round. So I think Ryan wins. I think he wins by knockout somewhere in the mid rounds. I think Duarte can kind of apply that pressure a bit early, make him uncomfortable. I think that's eventually going to be his downfall. So Nibs, I'll slide it to you. Pick a Ryan Garcia, pick an Oscar Duarte, and how you think that fight's going to play out.
Ryan Garcia, UD12.
Okay. All right. What you guys think? Monday Night Crew.
I'll go with the Ryan first half.
Okay.
So you saying KO by 6, no later than?
For sure.
Yeah. I think Duarte is real. But
I think Ryan.
I'm gonna roll the dice on Ryan, right? Like last week I picked Katie Taylor because she's Katie Taylor. I'm gonna pick Ryan Garcia because, man, I think he has a lot to prove. And even though a lot of people just think he's just some social media guy, I think he's going to dig down deep and show us that he does have the skills and he obviously has the power. So I'm going to roll with Ryan, but that's just more hope than me really analyzing both and picking them.
Yeah, and I think Ryan has a huge chip on his shoulder right now, and he's extremely hungry. He's got a lot to prove to certain people, and I think he's just on a different level mentally right now.
And I want to see that post fight, bro. I want to see Ryan with the mic, and I want to see Oscar and Bernard behind him, and I want to see what Ryan has to say.
Something tells me that they won't even show up, though.
No, what I want to see is them try to be buddy with him and him tell him to fuck off. I think that would be the best kind of thing. Oscar doing the good old thing. Oh, let me give you this belt. You're my boy. And Ryan say, no, none of that. Keep that same energy.
Like, oh yeah, I said all that to motivate you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bullshit.
Yeah. Eddie, real quick, do you guys give any weight to like the conversations I guess he's had with Floyd? Like people are trying to say Floyd's trying to poach him, get him over to TMT, or do you think it's just Floyd being Floyd?
I don't think that that's really happening, and it would be a dumb move because I mean that promotional company's not doing anything. You know what I mean?
I was about to say, to me, I always associate TMT. Are you really TMT or are you Al Heyman? I don't know how much of a promoter Floyd really is, right? Like, and I say that like not hating on Floyd, but like just from like Gervonta Davis talks, like he's talked about like, no, when Al gave me that call and Al told me what to do. So I don't know how big of a player Floyd is, but at the same time, I think if Ryan Garcia becomes a free agent, like, hey, he's gonna go out and get his money. And who's to say he can't create something on his own, like the great fighters in the past have done when they got to that point? You have Floyd, you have Oscar, right? Like when they got so big to a point where like we don't need a middleman, they were able to do that. Now, is Ryan at that point? I don't know. It's hard to tell, but I definitely don't think he's loyal to Golden Boy, right?
Yeah. And I think I don't look too much into that just because I think Floyd's been given a lot of young fighters game, not just his guys. Like we've seen him in the gym with Keyshawn Davis recently. We've seen him in the gym with Shakur recently, and he doesn't have any ties to those guys either. So I think he's kind of he likes being in the spotlight too, but I think he enjoys kind of giving these young guys knowledge and things like that too. So I think I don't look as much into that just because he's done it to other guys he has no ties to also.
Yeah, and I mean, come on now. Floyd's training for his February match against John Gotti III, right?
Mm-hmm. I know he ducked your boy Mikey Garcia. What's up with that? I thought that was a done deal, and here we are.
Yeah, when that happened, I was like, yo, if Floyd really fights Mikey Garcia, like with the full training camp, like, that's crazy. But yeah, not saying Floyd has to beat anyone else. I was just really excited for that fight. But I'm going to watch him against John Gotti III as well, and I'm going to be on in a couple months and making my predictions that will probably be wrong as well.
Yeah. And I think the problem with that fight, I think Mikey Garcia might have wanted Floyd to fight him at like light heavyweight or something like that. So that could have been where the line got drawn in that one. But we're a little over 2 hours now. I see we got some good other questions. We don't have time to get to them, unfortunately. It's about 2:18 my time, but Nibs, I don't know if they know, but we know how we always end the show. But give maybe like a little Spark Notes or Cliff Notes version of how we kind of wrap things up. It's a little late. We've been on for a bit, but we still want to put them onto some game on this real quick too. So wrap this up for us.
Go support your local boxing. I don't give a fuck what city you're in. I don't care what state you're in. You have local boxing events. Those local boxers end up being all the people we just got done talking about. Again, we talk about women's boxing heavy in this show. A lot of those female boxers were making next to nothing fighting in clubs and bars before they got to the big promotions that they're at now. So please, for the love of God, go ahead, show some love to your local people. I guarantee you, one, you won't be disappointed because they're usually always entertaining. And then you get to see these people later on when they get their shine. And don't forget to hit up the OnlyFans, InsideTheRing.com, Catch and Counter. Fuck with us.
Bro, inside the ropes. Come on, man.
You got on your shirt, bro.
Just read your shirt, man. But for me, we're talking about, this weekend, what is there? And obviously Ryan Garcia is the talk. This is kind of a curveball from the other side, but hey, that bare knuckle boxing, they got a great card this weekend, man. So I know they're OnlyFans affiliated. They got Mike Perry, Eddie Alvarez in the main event, bare knuckle throwing down. That's going to be a great fight. Beck Rawlings and Christine Ferreira. They got, I think, a few championship fights this weekend. So, hey, it's combat sports. And that one is on their feet throwing. So, watch that, Ryan. Watch that. Like Nip said, bro, just support the sport. That's really, I feel like, what the sport needs.
Yeah, I've always been with you too, Ray. I mean, I like my boxing, but I like anybody who's fighting, whether it's bare knuckle, UFC, two dudes outside my front yard, anything like that. I'm down to see two guys scrap 100%. I think that we're all kind of in for that. But I think you guys are going to be back on Monday. Felix, I know you just had a great episode. I watched a bit of it. I haven't watched the rest of it with Joseph Rivas on the Fight Life. So that is on our OnlyFans. Go to our social media for that as well. That will be on there. Anything you want to say on that real quick, or a preview for Monday, or anything before we wrap things up?
Yeah, go watch the episode with Joseph Rivas. It was a fun one. Training montages are my favorite thing to do, and it was one of my favorite ones to make with him on this video too. So check it out. He's fighting tomorrow night. Well, actually, it's now the night that he's going to fight. So like Nib said, check out your local boxing. And I got some breaking news for you guys too. So recently at the Celebrity Theater in Phoenix, we always have the same commentator team, same announcer, same ring girls. It's a nice little show. We lost our ring announcer recently, so we were in search of a new ring announcer. This is breaking news. This is who the new ring announcer is going to be for all the upcoming Iron Boy cards. I'm going to show you from my cell phone. I know you know who he is, Ray.
Oh, yes, sir. Hey, that's a big name. That's a big name for card.
Yeah, Lupe Contreras. A lot of people know him. To me, he's the third voice in boxing. It was always Michael Buffer, Jimmy Lennon, and Lupe Contreras. With he would do the Friday night fights or like the boxing after dark. So he always gave us that gritty feel. Michael Buffer, Jimmy Lennon with like the big shows, but Lupe held it down for the smaller ones too. So it's dope that he's going to be here. Support your local boxing show if you're in Arizona. Go watch the fight tonight at Celebrity Theater.
Yeah, and Quan Chi, I got you. That wasn't Vince McMahon, but it was Lupe.
Yeah. All right, so we'll catch you guys. I think they'll be back on Monday. We might have a super show at some point next week too, or we might be back on Friday. So I'll just check our social media for that. We'll catch you guys. Appreciate everyone tuning in the chat. Y'all have